Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to our board meeting. And since Dr. Flores is on her way, will you stop at the podium and lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would everyone please stand? Place your hand over your heart. On the count of three, begin. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for coming out this late afternoon. We are now at 1.3, which is the adoption of the agenda. So moved. It's been moved and properly seconded. Let's vote. Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you. 1.4, inspirational reading. We'll give you time to sit down, Ms. Medina.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I think this has been a great time for the vacation time for our students who I think are anxiously awaiting to start school again. I know some of my kids it's like, I want to start school because they don't get a chance to do, get to meet with their friends and so forth. So I think one of the things for inspiration is basically looking at the time with family. I mean, this is the summertime program, and I know we have many great summer programs that we had with the swimming pools being opened and taking advantage with your family and your friends and enjoying that time off. And now that the school starts, we'll be starting in August the 1st. That's also a great time to start with the education system and making sure that's one of the top priorities. So it's just enjoying it, taking advantage of your family and your friends, and ready for school once it starts in August the 1st. Thank you.
That's quick. Okay. That was quick. All right. Thank you, Ms. Medina. Thank you so much. Let's move on to session 2.0, and this is a special presentation.
Resolution in support.
Okay. All right, 2.1, resolution in support of the United States patriotic holidays. And I think we'll start on the end. And Dr. Wyatt, would you do the honor, please?
Thank you, Dr. Flores. All right. Resolution in support of United States patriotic holidays. Whereas the history of the United States of America has been shaped by many important leaders and events, and whereas in order to develop an understanding and appreciation for our great nation, schools and students have a duty to study and learn about historic events and the many contributions of our presidents, and whereas Independence Day, July 4th, Patriot Day, September 11th, Constitution Day, September 17th, National Voter Registration Day, September 27th, Veterans Day, November 11th, Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, and President's Day, February 15th, are some of the significant historical dates that should be highlighted with engaging in educational lessons and activities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the San Mateo City Unified School District encourages all district schools to acknowledge and undertake educational activities that commemorate national patriotic holidays and the contributions of our American presidents.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you, Board. 2.2, San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, and this is wonderful, folks. It's a check presentation. The San Bernardino Municipal Water Department will present to the Board a rebate check for $6,000 for the district's participation in Proposition 84 Institutional and HOA Turf Removal Program and Professional Development Center. So let's join Ms. Bardier.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, our Board of Education and Superintendent have the pleasure of welcoming representatives from the San Bernardino Municipal Water Department for a special presentation. Would our board members and Dr. VOLLKOMMER please join us up front for this recognition? It is truly an honor tonight to invite Devin Arcienega to present a $6,000 rebate check to the district for participating in Proposition 84's turf removal program by planting drought-tolerant landscaping at the new Professional Development Center. In this severe time of drought, this new landscaping will maximize water efficiency while also saving the district money on utility costs. The Board of Education would like to acknowledge and thank the San Bernardino Municipal Water Department for helping the district conserve our precious natural resources. Devin, would you please come forward to make your presentation?
Thank you very much. On behalf of the City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, we in turn would love to thank the City of San Bernardino School Board for participating in the turf removal rebate and further inspiring others to choose drought-tolerant landscaping. Thank you very much.
Let's give them a round of applause. And this is our only presentation for the evening.
Again, ladies representing the Municipal Water Department, thank you so much. And Mr. Norton, thank you, and Mr. Porkett, and being in your department, we want to thank you as well. So thanks to all of you. We're now at 3.0, Session 3, which is public comments. And this is the time during the agenda where the Board of Education is prepared to receive comments from members of the public on any matter within its subject matter jurisdiction. Keep in mind, there's a clock there, and one of these meetings I'm going to learn to sing, so when you're 5 minutes up, I will start singing, so they'll hear me instead of you.
Ready? Yeah, the board welcomes a group that wants to speak on the subject of air filters. So if we could ask the following people to come up and organize yourselves for this part of public comments. We have the following individuals: Martin Villa, Erica Flores, Graciela Larios, Maria Fabian, and Ada Trujillo.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Erica Flores. I am a community organizer with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice, and I am also a proud resident of the City of San Bernardino. And I'm honored to get to work with parents from this district every day who truly care for the safety and health of the children. So last month, about a month ago, I presented myself here on behalf of the parents to address a very serious topic, and that was the request to renew the air filters that are located in some of the schools within the district that you represent. We were a little disappointed at first that it was taking so long to prioritize the children's health and safety, as we know that they spend most of the time within the school premises. But we are really excited to know now that this board and the superintendent, Dr. Marston, took this issue and made it and turned it into a priority issue, and truly understood the importance of renewing the contract. And we were even more happy to know that it was through with IQ Air. And the reason why we were even more excited for that is because IQ Air is the only company that currently creates filters that capture up to 90% of the particulate matter, among other chemicals that currently are being produced by various fountains of pollution that exist surrounding the schools that you represent. So I went back and I spoke with the parents, and these parents work very hard at advocating for their children. That is their job. And they work very hard at identifying problems, but most importantly, identifying solutions. But just like they know how to identify problems and solutions, they know how to say thank you. And they know how to recognize when it's time to take the time to come. Just like they come here and they may be perceived as they're complaining, they see it as we're advocating for who we love the most. They're also here to say thank you. And when I talk to the parents, they always bring their children to the meetings. And the children are very bright and they understood what this meant. And so this idea was developed from them. They decided to create thank you cards for all of you to say thank you for renewing the air filter. So would you like to show it to them, what you created? They're a little shy. I do have two of the parents here, and they would also like to take the time to share a few words with you.
And before the parents, I would love to see the cards. So if you would collect them, Ms. Flores.
Of course, these are for you.
And let's just pass them around so we can look at them. We'll be listening, but we'll look at the cards at the same time.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
these are for you.
Thank you very much, children. That's very, very sweet of you, and you're in our hearts, and you're very important to all of us.
Thank you.
And all of these children, I want to add, they go to Ramon Alessandro, either Mount Vernon, Lido Creek, Arroyo Valley High School. Unfortunately, many of the other children and the parents couldn't attend tonight, but they're really excited to hear the news as well. So, Ada, ¿quieres compartir algo?
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Le doy muchas gracias por las buenas noticias que he logrado escuchar esta semana.
Good afternoon. I want to say thank you very much for the good news that I heard this week.
La salud de mis hijos es muy importante, su vida es muy importante para mí.
The health of my children is very important. Their lives are very important to me.
Y su futuro también es lo que es importante, no solo para mí, sino para la nación.
And their future is also very important, not just to me, but for the nation.
Quiero darles las gracias por haber hecho posible que los filtros en la escuela Ramón Alessandro, donde van mis hijos, puedan ser reemplazados.
I want to thank you for installing the filters at Ramon Alessandro, where my children attend.
Porque ellos salen muy temprano de la casa y es como un trabajo para ellos estar 6 a 7 horas en la escuela.
Because they leave the home very early to go to school, and it's like a job for them to be at school for 6-7 hours there.
Y la mayor parte del tiempo de esas 7 horas la pasan adentro.
And the majority of the time within those 7 hours, they spend it inside.
Entonces es muy importante que al instalar estos filtros van a ayudar a que su salud pueda estar protegida un poco.
So it's very important to know that by installing these filters, their health is going to be a lot better. It's very important to know.
Entonces por eso les doy las gracias por todo el beneficio que va a tener el cambio de estos filtros.
And so I want to thank you for all the benefits that the renewal of these filters will be having.
Yo soy una mamá que cada día aprendo con mis hijos. Aunque yo lea miles de libros, yo aprendo siendo mamá cada día y quiero lo mejor para ellos.
I am a mother who learns from her children every day. I learn from them every day, and I want the best for them.
Y por eso les doy las gracias.
And for that, I want to thank you.
Thank you so much. And we want your children to be healthy because we know they're our next doctors and lawyers and teachers, so we want them to be healthy. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Guadalupe Fabián.
Good afternoon, my name is Maria Fabián.
Tengo 2 hijos, él va en Arroyo, ¿vale? Y en Arroyo, y el otro va en un poquito nerviosa.
She's a little nervous.
No se
Él va
preocupe.
en Ramón Alessandro.
I have two kids. One of them goes to Arroyo Valley High School, and the other one attends Ramon Alessandro.
Y yo les doy muchas gracias porque yo ahí donde vivo está muy feo.
And I really want to thank you because where I live,
Por el aire, por los filtros que pusieron. Les doy muchas gracias.
it's really ugly, and I really want to thank you for the filters that you've installed.
En que alrededor de donde vivimos está muy, ¿cómo dice? Muy contaminado.
Around where we live, it's really contaminated.
Y pues les doy gracias.
I want to thank you.
Okay.
Lastly, in closing, I want to say that just like I've come up here as a community organizer, and at times I've challenged this board, and at times I know I've challenged on behalf of the parents, the superintendent, and really it's all out of love. I know sometimes it makes some people uncomfortable, but we're not here to make people comfortable. We want people to truly do their job and do what's right. And I want to be open and transparent about the conversation I had with Dr. Marston, because he called me himself, and he was very honest. It felt, I had a hard time trusting at first, because that wasn't always the case in the past. Not necessarily the superintendent, but that was not the case as always working with the school district. But he was a man of his word, and I know that that is reflective of this board. Immediately after we hung up, I received word from a representative from IQAir confirming that the purchase order had been placed and that this board was moving forward with the contract. And so we thank you, and we hope that we can continue to have a relationship, open relationship of communication, that we can work with you. The parents are now beginning to trust even more this board and believe in each board member and the representatives that serve them and their children, most importantly. So once again, thank you.
Thank you. And we have a few lights on up here, so if you don't mind waiting just a minute. Ms. Medina?
Pues muchas gracias por presentar. Thank you, Erika, and thank you to the parents, and thank you también a los niños. Thank you to the students as well. For us, it's true. Sometimes we do hear the passion and we hear the issues, and sometimes we're not fully aware. And I do appreciate that. I think the board appreciates it when we hear it directly from you guys, from the parents, from you all. And I wanted to say thank you also for the students who drew these, because honestly, you could see the dust particles that's floating in the air. They really went into it. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to do the thank you note, so I do appreciate you coming down. Les agradezco porque noté que tenían hasta los partículos lo que se contamina, y agradezco también la involucración de los padres que hayan venido ahora. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers?
Thank you. I also want to say thank you to the parents. I'm always so excited and motivated when I see parents come and voice, because oftentimes, sometimes parents think that their voice don't matter, but it truly matters, and this was well done, and we have received you well, and I'm grateful that you are seeing that we are reaching out, and we're a board that's really trying to take the necessary action that ultimately affect and encourage and help our youth. One of the youth out there, is Gwen here? I saw the bottom of one that said, who's Gwen?
Oh, she couldn't make it,
couldn't
but she
make-
sent her card.
Let her know that the other Gwen was looking for her. Okay. But when I looked at those cards, that in the drawings, first I seen also art, the fact that there was some nice art there. And then the one that said, thank you for someone helping me that don't even know me. That just, it speaks to, what we are trying to do and build. And not only are you working with the parents that I like, is that you're training and teaching the children. And that's a two-way, communication. And when we communicate, we can get things done. So we appreciate you, and thank you, parents. And don't forget to tell Gwen.
We won't. Thanks again. Thank you for hearing us.
Hey, Dr. Flores?
Thank you. Muchas gracias por venir. Es muy importante que oigamos las voces de ustedes. So thank you very much for coming. It's so important for us to hear your voices, especialmente cuando es tan importante de la salud de nuestros niños, especially when it concerns the health of our children. Algunas veces, ¿cómo se dice? Algunas veces gente dice que van a hacer algo y no lo hacen. Sometimes people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. but you have to keep us accountable. Tienen que venir para que sí lo hagan. Y qué bueno que vinieron y qué bueno que no tienen miedo. I'm glad you're not afraid. Y como la señora Rogers dice, la voz de los padres es muy importante. And like Mrs. Rogers said, the voice of the parents is very important, muy importante. Y niños, ¿hablan español? ¿Sí? Quiero agradecerles porque el arte que ustedes usaron y sus voces, ¿verdad?, en hacer las cartas fueron magníficas, okay? I want to thank the children. Your artwork and your passion is very, very beautiful, and thank you for doing that. Así se hace, ¿verdad? Son buen educados, muy buen educados son. Because they have very good manners. And they know how to be appreciative. So, thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tillman?
Yes, who did the kisses?
apologize.
Who did the kisses? I gotta find out who did
I'm
it.
not sure who did that one.
I think I know.
I think that's a poop emoji.
Yeah, well, who did that? Which one did it?
That was before you approved the contract.
That's okay. I like that one. No,
They were too happy.
that was for Mr. Gallo. But let me just say thank you for coming out, and I think in your role, I guess I've been on the board for 21 years, so 22, 23 years ago, I was in the audience and I would come up with concerns. So I understand what your role is, and I really think it's your job not so much to trust us, but to question us, and to make sure we do the right thing. And in the end, if we do the right thing, then the whole issue with trust doesn't matter anyway, right? That's what it all comes down to. And you shouldn't be ashamed to do that, because in the end, it's benefiting our students. You know, when I hear so much talk about this area becoming this transportation hub, and they use these big words to describe it in terms of modal and stuff like that, but you never hear about them talking about ways to mitigate the consequences in terms of air. And I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you, I've been in San Francisco my whole life, and I remember living here in the 70s, and we used to have smog alert days, and you would see the smog roll in. And that air is getting back to that color again. And I really think a lot of it is because of the transportation here. So I hope you guys use yourself as a model, and even encourage us and maybe work with us to find other areas that need the filters. And I would encourage you to go to other school districts, because you have other cities and districts that are having to increase traffic because of this big transportation push in this area.
We agree, and lastly, you know, we really truly see this board as an environmental justice champion. And we hope that other boards, not just at the city level, but county and regional level, can also see this as a perfect example of what it looks like to do what's right. It's not very hard.
No, it's not. Do the right thing.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you. And don't leave yet, Dr. VOLLKOMMER.
And Ms. Flores, I just want to say thank you very much for your concern for our citizens and for being willing to partner with us as a school district. We appreciate that. Parents, we thank you for coming out. And kids, I have 6 children. All of my children went to Ramona Alessandro Elementary School, proudly. And so while I love all the schools in the district, Ramona Alessandro is one of my sentimental favorites. So I wish you all just a terrific school year, and go Tigers.
Thank you. And Ms. Flores, we do appreciate you. And if you're not the voice, who will be?
Yeah.
So continue. And we certainly, you know, we're working together as a team. We can't do it all, and we don't know it all. But we appreciate you.
Dr. Hill?
So thank you.
I like
Flores.
to recognize Erica. She's not related to me, but
We're really not.
but she just graduated with her BA from Cal State, San Bernardino, in sociology. Very proud of her.
Thank you.
And she's headed to law school.
That's right.
And so
lawsuits
we
are
wish
coming
you the
up next.
best. Yeah.
Okay.
We wish you the best.
Thank you so
Well,
much. I
thank
appreciate
you.
that.
And thanks to the families, and thanks to the students. You have couple of more weeks before it's time to go back to school, so have a good school year. Thank you for coming out.
Have a nice day.
Thanks again.
Next, the board welcomes 3 people to speak on the subject of, probably FLI, Family Leadership Institute, Las Vegas. And the 3 representatives that we'll invite up are Dallas Robertson, Jennifer Reed, and Angie Shaw. Please come forward and organize yourselves and your comments.
Good afternoon, y'all.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's my southern thing, my Midwestern in me. Thank you. I'm Angela Shaw, go by Angie, as everybody knows me. The FLI that y'all have allowed to come into our school district has been an awesome and a wonderful thing for us. It's been a blessing. I brought a couple of poster boards that they had us do. At the first one, I had my other set and I couldn't find it. So I went on and brought my second set. It's a goal board that they had us make. This is mine. And this is my husband's. As some of y'all know, my husband is visually impaired completely. So one of my friends back here helped my husband do his, and his goals was to support our community, faith, health, insight, love, respect, confidence, and be a leader, because he a boss, and speaking his truth. And now he today also started college with Ashford with me.
Good.
When I wrote
That's
this,
great.
I was not going to college yet. My vision was to go to school, more family quality time, because these are things I learned from the FLI to put more into my family and into my community and know more of who I am. And today, because of FLI here and Vegas, I know who I am, and I strive to be more of who I am for my community, my school, and encouraging more APAC in my school and Black African American involvement in our schools. And this is helping me transform and learn better ways of communicating with our parents and our families. And that's what it's.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much. And tell your husband we said hi. Okay.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Reed. I just want to thank you, the board, and the opportunity to speak about my experience at FLI in Vegas. Just a little bit about me. I had last year. I only had a 3rd grader in elementary, and last year was my first year kind of getting involved, and even as far as APAC and everything. So when this training came up, I felt it was a great opportunity for not only for me to get to mix and mingle with others, but learn a little bit more about how to help other parents get involved and get engaged. So FLI really gave me great insight as to the importance of family leadership in the home and where it really starts. Because as parents, we are our children's first teachers. Everybody knows that. But I think sometimes with the busyness of life, whether you're working or just being at home, whatever it is, things happen, and you start to get on an impersonal level when you're dealing with people outside of your house. FLI really helped me to kind of get past the perceptions of people and really talk to that person and get to know their need and their heart. So I learned a great deal, even as far as journaling, in terms of using that technique to kind of get out the things that I can't say or that I may not be able to say to others, but and kind of collect my thoughts. And then when I'm addressing my kids, I can be more collective as to what I'm doing and what I'm saying. I do have a 9-year-old, now she's going into the 4th grade, and then I have 3 toddlers at home. I have a 3.5, 2.5, and a 1.5-year-old. So life is busy. But again, FLI kind of brought me back to a place where I can really recognize my role as a servant leader, and know that it's not just, even it may seem overwhelming in my little bubble, but when I step outside of that and help other parents to get involved, that it goes so much deeper. And it also helped me to understand the dynamic between the parent relationship and the parent and the administrative relationship, and try to strengthen that and what I can be doing as a parent to help improve basically my child's school situation, and again, helping other parents to be the same. So I left the FLI feeling more confident about, I was already involved in APAC, getting more involved in APAC, and actually taking an initiative to bring other parents in and get them involved. So I feel like this program is very needed, and I will recommend it to all the parents I see this coming year.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dallas Robertson. I currently have a 16-year-old starting his junior year at Cone High School. He's been in the district for all of his educational career, but I've never been involved with anything. So this is my first time being a part of any meetings or going to any programs or doing anything. So I would just like to say that I would first like to thank the district for providing an opportunity for myself and other African-American parents to attend both the 2- and 4-day Family Leadership Institute. The 10-step approach to parental involvement was informative and inspiring. FLI effectively introduces tools to parents in order for them to become better role models to their children. FLI also encourages parents to be hands-on and more involved in their children's education, in turn, fostering better students. But I wanted to add that learning and growth did not stop when we left Vegas. The bus ride back was very, it was a fun time. Half of the parents spoke English, half the parents didn't. But although during the conference we weren't communicating with each other in any type of way or speaking or spending time together, we were stuck on the bus for 4 hours. So I took it upon myself to begin to ask questions about stereotypes and where everybody was from. And I think that because of that, we have built a bond. And although we don't speak the same language and we don't come from the same backgrounds, we all want the same thing for our children. And I think that was very important as well. But that didn't happen within the conference, but it happened on the way home. Yes.
How many went?
40-something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really half and half. Half spoke English and half didn't. So, and although we couldn't communicate, we were still able to communicate. And we determined that we all wanted the same thing for our children.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Great.
that was all.
Okay, thank you, but don't leave because there's some lights on up here. So we'll give you a round of applause. And thanks for that, because I'm sure what you learned on the bus and working with each other was really important. Ms. Rogers?
Thank you. I'm not going to mess with you, Dallas, on that. You guys all did a great job. Actually, Mr. Tillman asked my question. I had my light on. He just kind of blurted it out. So thank you for that. But I did have another question. So I know I was there with you all on one of the nights when you did your local training. So what's the difference between your training here and your training there when you go to Vegas?
Okay, so I would say the training here was just parents. There were no administrators.
Okay.
There weren't people from other districts and other states. So when you go to the 4-day conference, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with teachers, you're dealing with mentors. You see there's just a wider range of people, and you see more different perspectives.
Okay.
And although everybody there wasn't coming as a parent, everybody was a parent.
Okay.
So being able to talk to each other and get the different perspectives and things like that. So we had people from Oklahoma, Texas, some other districts in California, some were Native American schools, and so it was just a wide range of people, ages, genders, ethnicities, cultures.
And so when you all and this is, I'm not just you, any of you can answer because I know you all, but when you, you ready? When you, so now that you all are back, what is there like kind of like an action plan that they give you or to prepare for the next year?
They gave us, some of us got like little booklets for what the parents will use. Some of us got actual trapper keepers with, binders. Binders with information on how to run the classes or either help run the classes. So we are able to present it to other parents ourselves as a parent or even as a leader in our school district.
So will you be recruiting other parents? Is that
I believe
your goal?
that's our goal. I know it's my personal goal.
The goal is to begin to recruit other parents and also facilitate trainings ourselves. There's like you could do a book club. There's a book that's just a book like a novel kind of thing, that you could do a book club, or you can do the 10 steps,
Okay.
the 10 programs. So
And that
just-
book was written by Consuelo
Yes,
herself.
yes.
And will you partner this into the APACs? Is that kind of?
Personally, that's my goal
Okay.
for Riley Elementary. I would love
To
to
have it be
blend
part.
it in with our APACs and even the San Bernardino High cluster APAC. That's
Okay.
my personal goal as a chairperson.
Okay, great. Well, go ahead.
Just add to that, yeah, I was one that got the assistant facilitator, so I don't know about the bigger binder, but my understanding is that the one who did get the bigger binder, we're help facilitating their meetings, their conferences, but I would like to also, just like Angie said,
Input
bring
it.
it to incorporate at least some of these lessons into the APAC, so the parents can start to build,
Right.
in understanding, and I believe that if we get this into the parents' hands, the more parents we get into, I believe you'll see a greater parent involvement in the schools.
And you received certificates or something like that?
Yes.
So we can call upon you guys as the super
Yeah.
parents? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, guys. Great job.
Okay, don't leave yet. Mr. Tillman?
So what schools do your students go to, and what grade are they in?
My son, Tavion, is in going to 3rd grade. He's 9.
Okay,
Riley Elementary.
Riley.
And I have a 4th grader and a incoming preschooler at Cypress Elementary.
And mine is 16, he'll be going to his junior year at Calhoun High School.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank you all for volunteering your time to help, because you guys, as you know, make a big difference, especially with our helping out other parents, because you guys can talk to folks that people in the district can't talk to. And I love the way you got kind of offensive about the APAC. You said you're not part of APAC. That's a good thing, because you still want to help, and you're going to find other parents that got an attitude like you and don't want APAC, but you.
I can't speak for APAC.
I know, I'm just playing with you. But there's people outside of APAC who still can get help by hearing from you. So I think it's great. And with the stuff that's going on in the country, I was telling somebody the other day, the work that we've done in this district is always going to pay off. I remember when it was a big deal for us to talk about this targeted instruction for African American students. I mean, it was a huge debate whether or not you could have something on paper that said it was going to target the needs of African American students. So we've come a long way since then, and just to see the fruit of our labors is great. I mean, I think you guys are making a huge difference. And when you brought up the subject about talking to people from other backgrounds and other ethnicities, that's what it's all about. Because in the end, all we care about are our kids. And as soon as we understand that, I think we're all better off. And there's plenty enough to go around for everybody. So it's not as though if we get something, somebody else loses something. We're all in it together. And as our students do better, then other people's students do better, and then the entire district gets better. So I can't thank you all enough for participating and getting involved and coming back and give us feedback tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, not quite yet. Dr. Flores?
I want to thank you. I was there at the parent meeting that one time, and it was pouring rain, and I was like, remember all the parents that were there? It was just amazing. And I know that I went through the FLI myself, one of the first ones. I went 4 days and did everything that you all did, and it was just tremendous. And you're correct. I mean, we're all the same. We're all parents. And that was the equalizer, like Mr. Tillman said and Ms. Rogers says. We're all parents. What do we want? Want the best for our kids. We're all board members, administrators. We're parents first, and we want the best for our kids. And it takes a lot of effort. It takes believing in ourselves. It takes believing in others. It takes, finding, our strengths and sharing them with others and bringing them along. And I can see right now that you three, you're the bomb. You're the bomb. You guys are going to go out. And I'm especially really proud that you've never been involved. And girl, that's good. You just barely started. That's really, really incredible. And I'm so proud of you. Well, all of you. And I mean, you just see your leadership right now. And that's what we need. We need parent leaders because, you know, we sit up here and, yeah, we make decisions, we're elected, but where it all happens is in our families. And it's the quality that we give our kids, it's the quality of communication and, you know, communicating with everybody, not just, you know, complaining. My dad always wouldn't let us, if we had a complaint, he said, I'm not hearing your complaint unless you have 2 solutions. And so we would have to go to him and say, okay, this is my complaint, and we'd have to give him 2 solutions, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't hear them, you know. And forget gossip. He would not tolerate gossip. So it was really important, and I'm so happy that you guys had a wonderful experience in Las Vegas. And you're right about all the people that come. It's just tremendous. And I have to tell you that I've been in the same situation you were. You guys were on a bus, I was on a plane. There's all these Japanese, you know, tourists. And I was flying from LA to Tucson, where I was getting I was going to school. And I wanted to talk to them. So I wrote, can you read English? They said yes. And so we communicated by reading and writing. I couldn't speak Japanese, they couldn't speak English or Spanish, but we found a way to communicate. And that's what you guys did. You found a way to communicate. And that's what we have to do. And we're going to promote ethnic studies. And I think that will be helpful not just for our kids, but for our parents as well, so that we know all the roots that we share together as a community in our history. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, we have one more. Thank you, Ms. Medina.
I just wanted to say thank you, Angie, and the rest of the parents. I know that when you become involved, it's not always the easiest transition into learning so many things new, and then you want to take it into your home and you want to teach other parents and you want to spread the word, and you become very passionate. I know that happened to many of us parents, and even with GWEN, we were both part of DAC, District African American Advisory Council, in different time points. But the involvement, you become really passionate and you start learning the stuff, and then you want to share the information. So I do appreciate that you guys did go and bring that knowledge back to our school sites and for our parents. And I also want to recognize Emily in the back, who is also one of our great parents. That's how I started, and she was one of our great friends in organizing and parenting and parent leadership through the Leadership Institute that they would have here in the district. So thank you, and Aldo, who's there, and of course, Devona, who's back there as well, a parent for the District African American Advisory Committee. So thank you so much for all what you're doing, and I know we're going to do great things here in the district. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, and we know we'll hear from you later in the year of the wonderful things you are doing with other parents. Thank you so much.
Next, the board welcomes Lene Norwood to talk about the summer youth program at Ann Sherrills Park Community Center. Lene?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Actually, one of our parent volunteers is putting in another comment, so I hope that gives us an extra 5 minutes. But I wanted to start
You
off.
probably got a lot of kids at the shop, don't you?
Actually, we're done for the day, so yeah, everybody got picked up at 5. I wanted to start off by saying thank you so much to San Bernardino City Unified School Board for your support of our summer youth program at the Ann Sherrills Park Community Center. Also wanted to give a very special thanks to Dr. Martin. I see he's not with us today. If you guys understood the work that's being done over there, I know Dr. Margaret Hill and board member GWEN RODGERS and has stopped by. The lives we're touching. I'm just overwhelmed. I can't even describe it to you. If you look up at the slideshow, those are just some pictures that I grabbed that we had our photographers take, and it's just a brief snippet of some of the work we're doing. So we started the program off with an open house, a meet and greet, so the parents could come, learn about the program, meet our staff members, get questions answered because, this is a new location, a new program, and a part of town that has been, historically underserved. So we were excited for that. And we had over 80 parents show up that day. So that definitely showed that there was a strong interest. That's actually one of the pictures of the open house. We had a packed house. And it was amazing. And the instructors and myself talked to the parents and described what the expectations were. We made it very clear we are not a daycare. We're here to support you as you raise your children and give them other activities that are positive and constructive to their well-being and growth. So we are excited to announce through our marketing and outreach campaign that we pre-registered 143 students. So that was the response, and that was literally with like 2 weeks. So had we been given more time to do outreach and recruitment, I'm sure we would have had to have a waiting list or turn people away. So out of that 140 that pre-registered, we had 126 students that actually showed up and completed their registration. And we had an average daily of attendance of 56 students. And that number is reflective of the conversation we had at Open House. We're not a daycare. This isn't just a come, drop your kids off and leave type of program. There's specific activities, which ones you feel speak to the needs of your child, please come and sign them up for those. And that's the times that they'll be here, and then please come pick them up. So, and the parents were very, very supportive. Another proud thing, I'm so proud of San Bernardino City Unified School District parents because we had over 25 parents sign up for our parent volunteer list to commit to at least 2 hours for the length of the summer program, and that has definitely helped with some, overhead with staff costs. So our programs that we actually offer, we went above and beyond for you guys. I know we originally said we were going to do math and literacy tutoring, the African dance and drum, the rites of passage, and lunch. We actually added on breakfast, and we had a huge demand for that. So on average, we had about 40 kids show up every day for breakfast, about 70 for lunch. We have added on as well hip hop dance. We added on martial arts and a self-esteem series. And this is probably going to be one of our flagship programs moving forward, Discovering the New Me. Through this program, some things came out. I did have to make, we're mandated reporters. I did have to make some reports, but that just showed that there are young ladies that have trauma and things happening to them or not dealing and processing things emotionally well, and they needed an outlet, and they needed to know their self-worth and find the tools to deal with challenges as they come. So our Discovering the New Me program was a rave hit. We ended it with the girls having a party for that. And that was just an amazing thing. I want to give you guys these flyers because I see my time is running down. I don't know if I'm going to get the extra 5 minutes.
We do have a blue slip for Iris Baumgartner, so.
Awesome. So I'll pass these to you guys.
Just give it over here.
Yeah, you can.
But the clock's running. If you would have, we wouldn't have any more time once you did that, Lene.
Okay. So, so yeah, just to talk a little bit more about Discovering the New Me. Iris, are you giving me your time? Oh, thank you. See, that worked out beautifully. Discovering the New Me, we had some things come up with young women doing cutting, physical abuse, sexual abuse. So that showed me that there's definitely a need for us to expand our services at that community center and make that a staple of our program. And I know the district is taking steps to incorporate mental health services throughout very community center sites that you have on school. So we definitely want to duplicate that at the center and keep that going. So at the end of our program, I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But also another thing that we noticed, we'd like to include parent support groups. We had the shooting of the 9-year-old boy. It wasn't in the community center area, but a lot of parents were outraged and upset about that and really reached out to me like, what are we going to do? We want to do something. So we actually had a community forum where they came and addressed violence and some of the things that are going on in the city, and we are developing a strategy and outreach plan around that. So we definitely would like to expand upon that. Character building. We definitely need to keep working with our kids on character, respect, their value systems. Youth jobs and entrepreneurship, we were able to employ 3 teenagers to work as staff to kind of like shadow the other staff and learn job skills. So that was a great thing that came out of this program. In addition to that, we would like to have more music-based programs and outreach because we saw that the kids really took to the hip hop and some of the other music, and we were thinking maybe a band and doing something like that. So to be continued. But I handed you guys a flyer, and that's 2 flyers, and it's 2 events that I would love for the board to come and represent and show your support. So the last week of the program is Tech Week. So we have brought in several instructors that are going to teach the children several tech-based learnings to give them introductions to the high-paying careers of the future. So that includes coding, internet safety, cybersecurity, networking, graphic design, website design, and robotics and engineering. So we are really, really excited about that. We have the computer center getting set up as we speak right now. An obstacle we ran into that the district was able to help us with when the city installed the building, they forgot to run internet connections. So we are utilizing the same vendor as the city for wireless internet. So thank you very much to Student Services for supporting us with that. And in Tech Week, also, we're going to take a field trip to the California Science Museum. So we're excited to get the kids out of the city. They get to go over to the big museum, and we have a fun day of activities planned for that. And then we're going to end the program on July 30th with our formal grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony. All the invites, I'm sure many of you guys have received the press releases and invites, but if not, please, we encourage you to come. The students have a special presentation, several that they want to make for the school board in the city, just to see some of the things that they've learned over the 6 weeks. We also will be incorporating a STEAM fair with that, where children will have interactive hands-on fun activities focusing on science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So fun things that include like Nasabu games. We're going to have like a decathlon. There's finance and baking games. We're doing chess. It's really, really fun and interactive. And with that, we've had several sponsors to support that event. So we're also having a small resource fair so the parents have something to do. And some of our partners for the resource fair is Seeds for Change. So we'll be able to give out some basic necessities and groceries. First Five is going to be in attendance. Black Chamber of Commerce, Inland Empire, Street Positive, and then Web Family Enterprises is going to be supplying 200 Happy Meals to the first 200 kids. So we're really, really excited. And once again, I just wanted to thank you guys. And Iris, if you wanted to just talk a little bit about your experience with the program, and that's all.
Well, Ms. Norwood, you took all of Iris's time except for 1 minute. So I'll be quick. You can get her later, Iris.
I just wanted to say thank you. You know, I've been with the organization since the very first event, and to see it grow into where now we have a home that we can really have a foundation in these kids' lives. It's amazing. You know, growing up out here, we didn't have nothing like this for kids my age. And it didn't impact us. We didn't have nothing to change our lives. And I've watched these kids come in from bad behavior, no manners, to where now they walk in the door and they're like, good morning, how are you? You know, yes, ma'am, no, sir. And they're completely different kids. And we wouldn't have been able to do it without your guys' support. So thank you.
Thank you, Iris. We appreciate it. Thanks to both of you. Don't leave, Iris and Lene. A lot of lights on. So, Dr. Flores, I'm going to start with you and go all the way down to Mr. Tillman.
Thank you. When you guys first came to present, you touched my heart. And I could feel, you know, I have a lot of intuition. And I knew that there was so much, not just love, but you guys had it together. And just the last thing that you said is so important. It's our kids that need to be around. I'm a Vygotskian, and Vygotsky says, you know, knowledge is shared and we learn based on our social interactions. And whatever we organize as social interactions, that's what our kids will learn. And we need to organize up and to the potential and support our kids. And that's what we need to do. And I wonder if we can continue this as after-school programs, you know, in terms of the money that we get. I know we're going to have extra $5 million, my colleagues, my board members, from, the SES, what was that called, Harold, SES? Supplemental Educational Services. Remember the companies we had to give money to do after-school training? I know we have that extra money. I would like to see, I'm just saying this on my part, for you to continue what you're doing in terms of supporting, that community in terms of our kids. So anyway, thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. Bless you for all the goodness that you bring to our kids and to our families.
Thank you, Dr. Flores.
Mrs. Rogers?
And I wanted to ask, I heard you say something about your numbers. Did you hit your number, or?
We did hit our number. We didn't have an ADA goal per se, but we did have an enrollment goal, and we exceeded it.
And it was, and how many weeks did you go?
6 weeks.
You went 6 weeks.
We're in week 4 now.
Okay, and this is week 4. Okay.
Right, no.
Okay, so you're not quite,
Week
5, because it's
5.
ending, it's going to end on.
Week 5.
And this is what it's ending on.
I have been there 14 hours.
Right.
I have no clue what today is.
So, and another thing I just want to mention in the efforts of, our community, and one thing about the school district is we're working collaboratively across the entire city. And I see that a number, as you mentioned them, and they're here even on the flyer, a number of individuals that are partnering to support this effort. And I think I probably mentioned this before, and I'll mention again, because I think it's very important for our city to, in order for them to be on the logo, I'm sure they have to produce something. And so I want to encourage you, because there's a big prevention gap here that we need to deal with. And we still need the city, we need law enforcement, we need all of these people to come together in order to help us support programs like this. So I will encourage you, again, to now you have something that you can show. I'm sure it was probably more storytelling for you on the other end, but now to be able to show and say, because there are, those prevention type of things and efforts that they need, and someone needs to do them. So thank you guys again for coming, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Ms. Medina?
Well, this is exciting for me because when you see the faces, you could see the different activities that kids are going through. And plus, you look at the tech bonanza and you see the coding, graphic design, website design, all of these programs that you have, robotics. I mean, it just shows that you guys are bringing service to the kids that might have not seen it. And like you mentioned earlier, a lot of our children don't get that opportunity. And it's not their fault either. It's not their parents' fault. They grew up in the environment they grew in. It's not like if you can change that overnight. And so what do you provide to help alleviate and try to teach them the manners or the other areas of that they did not learn? And it's like I said, it's no fault to their own, but these are great opportunities, and I hope you continue to do the work and be successful. And I do see great things coming out of this program. I really do. Thank you so much for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Gallo?
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Yeah, first comment is, as a rocket scientist, I looked at the aerodynamic properties of this rocket that you have on the sheet here, and we got to do a little bit of more redesign in the propulsion system. But we'll help you with that one. But I'm just kidding. But what I'm really impressed with is your response to the students' needs that were coming in, and you mentioned the reportability requirement, all of these kinds of things, and you adjusted your program on the fly to meet the needs of those kids that were coming there immediately while you had them there. And that's very impressive. Not many programs, would know how to deal with those kinds of issues, especially without any forethought and, experience and knowing what you're going to receive. So very impressive. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, I just want to, thank you. I think the conversation all this started with you and I don't know, how many months ago was it? And you called me and said you wanted a building, you needed some money for a building. That was the conversation, right?
Yeah,
and,
something to that.
And I told you come down to the board and do a presentation on that, right? But what you don't realize is how amazing it is that you were able to pull it all together in that short period of time. I mean, because you're not only working with the school district, but you were working with the city in terms of the building. So I got to tell you, while I was talking to you, I was thinking, she crazy. It's never going to happen this summer. But you made it happen. So, and I want to thank, I know you worked with Dr. VOLLKOMMER, right?
Yeah.
And Dr. Marsden, and that was a big deal because they helped find a way to move it through. You know, when you talked about the students that you identified, and some of them have mental health needs, and you talked about duplicating the services, I would rather you find a way to make sure that you have some cards from maybe Dr. Mitchell or the folks who are in charge of our special ed, and make sure those students know who to get in contact with, or if you guys even make sure that we have those names. Because the disconnect is this: we have millions of dollars every year that go unspent for mental health services. The disconnect is that student may have to have an IEP in order to get those services. But whatever it takes for those students to get those services, that needs to happen. And if you touch them once, they shouldn't have to find another person within the system in order for it to make sure that they get the resource that they have, because the resources are there. So if they go to our schools, we should make sure that we give them that extra attention. So Dr. Mitchell, I hope you guys work together. Maybe you guys are ready to make that part happen. But I haven't been by there, but I made a phone call because I'm from Bernardino, and they told me it's a packed house over there.
Yes.
Every day.
Every day.
So you guys are doing a great job, and I just commend you and thank you, and I know the community thanks you for all the work you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Wyatt?
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to see this. I don't know if you know, but there's a similar boot camp that's been going on that's kind of like this. But my concern with it was that it was $525
Right, okay.
for kids to go to. And I'm like, well, how can
Last year.
families afford that, first of all? It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
So when I look here and I see it for $25, something very similar, if not even better, because you're offering a lot of different workshops that they have, I think what a wonderful opportunity for our kids in our community. So I'm kind of wondering, what's the capacity for that? How much room do you have for kids to attend this?
Well, we're going to segment it in our modules. So with that, we're at a capacity of 75 kids.
Oh, wow, that's 75. That is something special. And we would love to get that out there to more kids and let them know. So, you know, the way I found the other one was just via Facebook. I was just there shooting ads out there, and I think, you know, if you did the same thing, you know, even a very short period of time, you probably will book that, because $25 versus, it's on Facebook already?
Yes, I'm
Oh, right on.
aggressive with my marketing.
Well, then I need to blast it for you. How's that?
Please.
Well, now we know what Miss Gwen's on everything, huh? Snapchat, huh, Gwen? Okay. But no, I just think that what a wonderful opportunity for our kids, and I mean, that's pretty much almost for free, to be honest with you. So thank you for offering that to our kids in our community, and I'll be talking to my son about it, just so you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh, yeah.
you.
Okay, Lene, Lene and Irish, we look forward to you coming back, sharing things after this program is over. And I'm glad that Dr. Mitchell was able to work with you as far as getting the wiring and everything for your computers and what
Bless you.
have you.
Thank
So
you, 'cause Tech
thank
Week
you,
would not be
thank you, Dr. Mitchell. There are a lot of needs over there, so I need to apologize because I only got over once. I've just been busy.
No.
But I'm glad to hear the testimony you provided this evening. So thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause.
The board invites to the podium Rochelle Capozio, overview of historical trauma presented by Riverside San Bernardino County Indian Health Consortium.
Good evening, Dr. VOLLKOMMER and Cabinet. This has been a really good summer as far as conferences go, and I wanted to share this information with you. Ron and I and another woman went to the Historical Trauma Healing the Future at the DoubleTree Hotel on June 17th. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because if you look on the first page, you'll see some of the effects of childhood maltreatment. And I was surprised to see that the highest number of suicides occurs in kids who just have emotional neglect. No one hears them, no one sees them. And all this research was done in the Indian community I thought the way things are going in San Bernardino, I'm sure that our children in the district are also suffering from some of these same things. The last page is a little questionnaire. This work originally was done by Vincent Folletti through Kaiser Hospital many years ago. And what they were actually doing was trying to find out why obese, I think they called it morbidly obese people were doing really well in their program and dropping weight, and then all of a sudden they would just quit. And they would start gaining their weight back. So they said, what's going on here? And what they found out was that that all went back to the events in their childhood. And so that's what started the research. And then they had another one called The Origins of Addiction, which was their follow-up. And then Chadwick's Child Maltreatment. The last page of what I gave you is the questionnaire. And I was surprised at how many of those things I fit. Like back in the day, we got spankings. And my parents were from the generation that won World War II, and they smoked heavily, they drank, and that's just the way it was. So some of these things that we take for granted, we don't realize what effect they have on us, and then in turn, we don't appreciate what effect they're having on our children. So I guess I would appreciate if you could look into some of this work that's been done and see if there's some way that we can reach out. I liked what the woman just before me said. In her program, she touched on a lot of these same issues and was able to just start dealing with them. And the other thing that they said in the research was that one of the things that the kids need the most is just the ability to express what they're feeling. So maybe we could work that into our curriculum a little bit more.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rochelle. Thank you, and thanks for the handouts.
You're welcome.
I like you when I got the number 1 or 2. That's what if they're all like this, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that's why I'm not wearing a size 3 dress. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
A question for Ms. Medina.
And this might be a clarifying question. With these questions, because I'm reading the questions, and a lot of them are really tough ones, especially and explicit for, I imagine when you're a child and you're going through this, I mean, so it is. Was there suggestions on using these questions for teachers to help, or at least maybe, or what was the intent? So I
The
can.
intention at the conference was to help us to recognize and to look out for these types of things occurring to children because it happens so often. And most of the time, the children just deal with it in silence. They feel isolated.
Right.
They feel like, no, this is not happening to anyone else. It's just me, and there's something wrong with me, and,
Right.
you know,
And-
it snowballs from there.
And these are really good questions to ask and to know in the sense because we might not necessarily know why a child might be so quiet or in the corner or acting a certain way. And might be considering a behavior issue, but you don't know if there's something just more that they're going through at home. So thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome.
And President Hill, that's all the comments, public comments we have this evening.
Thank you so much. We move right along to session 4, 4.0, administrative presentation. 4.1, amendment to board bylaw 9250.
And I'm going to go ahead, Board, and pinch hit for Dr. Wiseman, who is out of the district today. This item is in response to the board's request in relation to a raise commensurate with the raises that other groups in the district have received, as well as indicating some language in terms of reimbursement for personal vehicle mileage and car usage. And so this information is contained within your bylaws, and so it does require a bylaw change given that the bylaws currently reflect information about your expenses as well as your remuneration. And so I'll just point out very quickly on the agenda item, you'll see that the compensation, monthly compensation would be increased from $700 to $731.50. That is 4.5%, and that would be effective July 2016. And then if you go forward 2 pages under reimbursement of expenses, everything else remains the same. Board members shall be reimbursed for personal vehicle mileage when performing services for the district, other than for travel to and from specifically board meetings of the board at the IRS reimbursement rate, except as otherwise provided herein. The rate of reimbursement shall be the same rate specified for district personnel, which is the IRS authorized rate. So those are the changes we were asked to bring back to you. And this does take a first and second reading. There is an action item later in the agenda for your consideration.
Dr. Hill?
Okay, Mr. Tillman?
Yeah, I know with the other groups are classified and certificate employees, after they have like 15 years of service, they can get the district to pay the cheapest medical for 5 years after they leave. Can we consider that for board members?
I mean, who are you asking?
The board, for consensus.
So you're saying after 15?
I know that's what it is with the classified certificate employees. After 15 years, if you
Right.
retire, you get,
Yeah, you get additional 5 years.
Right. You
get-
Unless you have a lot of sick leave left over, you can get more. 'Cause
we don't get
I
sick
got-
leave, so that wouldn't factor in.
6 years.
I got 6
Madam
years.
President?
But
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
okay, what happened is, after 15 years, what happens as far as certificate and classified, you get paid. Right now, we are on insurance. But once we finish on the board, once we retire, we still have a number of years. In my case, I got 6 years.
Okay, after.
You know, after retirement, that you would still maintain the same amount of insurance
Okay.
protection. But then after that, you know, you're kind of, you know, on your own.
Okay,
Dr. Flores?
And so the idea you're bringing forward
I
is
just,
to
For
bring
board
up.
members.
yeah, I was just going to respond to Mr. Tillman. I think that would be great in terms of parity, in terms of, you know, if we're doing that for our employees, I think if we've served that long as a public servant, I think we can do that. I don't know if we have to find out the logistics and the law,
Exactly.
but I would want Ms. Christakos to look into it to see the legalese in it and also the you know, what others do. Could you do that?
Sure.
Dr. VOLKOMMER? Yeah.
If we have consensus of the board, what we'll do then is research it, make sure it's legally sound, number one. Number two, we'll bring back as part of the second reading the addition of that language in a cross-out and bold
Right.
to indicate the change. And what I'm hearing the board say is after 15 years of board service, we wouldn't necessarily call it retirement. You may be
would just be
retiring.
board
Yeah, if you're
service.
ending service after 15 years, then you would qualify for the 5 years of additional
Right.
medical benefits.
And then once we hit 65 anyway, we have to go into Medicare, yeah.
We can certainly bring that back.
Thank you.
We'll bring it back as the part of the second reading.
I do want to just let the audience know, or the ones that are viewing this televised, it's increasing from $700 to $731.50. So that way they don't think like, oh, how much are they raising it? You've probably thousands of dollars, so it's $31.50.
Yeah, Dr. VOLKOMMER stated that.
Yeah, okay.
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 All right.
We have your direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Section 5.0, student achievement, district's mental health services and support.
Thank you, Board. This, we're going to bring you some information this evening based on a request that you made just not too long ago in relation to the services that are provided in the area of mental health. Dr. Mitchell is going to tee it up, introduce his team, and share with you where we're going. Thanks, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. VOLKOMMER. Thank you, Board, for asking us to update the Board on our efforts around mental health services and programs for our students and families. Our directors, Roseanne Lalama, who's Director of Alternative Programs, she oversees our K-12 counselors as well as our PBIS efforts and a host of other supports in our district, as well as Michael Dominguez, Director of Special Education, to present an overview of our mental health services and supports. Mrs. Lalama will discuss our efforts that we provide for our general education students, and then Mr. Dominguez will discuss our efforts in support of our special education students. So we've delineated it that way. The two of them often are working together and are using each other's staff across a variety of areas. And so tonight was not meant to be an exhaustive review of everything that we have happening, but just the major initiatives that are currently in place, as well as plans for next steps to expand these services across the district. And so we welcome your feedback and questions and comments tonight. So with that, we'll turn it over to Rose and Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell, and thank you, everyone, for allowing us to have the opportunity to share with you what we are doing within student services. First, I would like to bring your attention to the screen. This is what we base our counseling expectations, as well as aligning with our LCAP goals and our KPI goals, but it's based on our American School Counselor Association, our ASCA national model. And what you see before you are the 6 mindsets and behaviors for student success that counselors are to align their expectations of their daily duties and responsibilities. Of the 6, 5 are directly related with mental health and social-emotional learning for our students. And who better to explain what the counselor role is than one of our counselors? And so I would like to invite Reem Kakish, who is our elementary school counselor from Cole Elementary, to come up to the podium and just share a little bit about what the ASCA model looks like for counselors and what are some of the duties that are aligned with that.
Good evening. School counselors use the ASCA standards as a framework to develop a multi-tiered system of supports for students. School counselors use the standards to assess student growth and development, guide the development of strategies and activities, and create a program that helps students achieve their highest potential. This includes offering education, prevention, and short-term intervention services designed to promote positive mental health and to remove any barriers. In accordance to the ASCA model, there are 3 domains in which counselors provide services to students based on a response to intervention model. The 3 domains are academic, career, and social-emotional. Currently, at the Tier 1 level, counselors provide interventions and skill building for all students via classroom core curriculum lessons such as bullying prevention, sexual harassment, stress management, Too Good for Violence curriculum, and many more, based on the data-driven needs of the school. School counselors are also partly responsible for implementations of school-wide social skills, expectations through PBIS and restorative justice, attendance interventions, and promote school-wide initiatives such as Red Ribbon Week and the Great Kindness Challenge. Services that the school counselor provides at the Tier 1 level are seen by all on campus. Behind closed doors, counselors are tending to students at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level who are experiencing behavioral issues, grief and loss of a family member or a friend, divorce, the incarceration of a parent or guardian, homelessness, removal from their home from Children and Family Services, foster care, issues with their peers, being teased, bullied, neglected, or abused. Oftentimes, students are referred to the school counselor by their teacher or parent request. There have been many instances where the parent or guardian asked to sit with the counselor and student at once in order to receive some guidance and mediation from the counselor. Not only are we here for the students, we are also here for their families. Counselors then assess the needs of the student and focus on their physical and mental well-being by providing coping skills to the students. This is done at an individual and/or group level. Individual and group sessions are typically 8 sessions long with continual support and maintenance with the students. Referrals are also made to our community-based organizations such as Victor Community Support Services and Family Services Agencies for therapeutic services based on the needs and severity of the student if they are Medi-Cal eligible. Individual and group counseling topics range from, but are not limited to, anger management, drug cessation, crisis response intervention, grief and loss, self-esteem, conflict mediation, and anxiety and stress management. Students' unmet mental health needs can be a significant obstacle to student academic, career, and social-emotional development, and even compromise school safety. Schools are often one of the first places where mental health crises and needs of students are recognized and initially addressed by the school counselor. When working with students at the social and emotional level, we are faced with many obstacles. It is not easy for a student to open up to someone about their self-esteem, what is going on in their personal life, and even the difficulty of the student to be able to express their feelings and emotions. We are advocates for our students and their voice. It is not easy to get a quiet first grader to tell you why he or she is displaying destructive behavior, probably for a reason they don't even know. It is not easy to break through to a middle school student about how their mood and emotions range from night and day. We put much effort and time in building rapport with our students and create a trusting and confidential environment. We strive to provide students with stability and a feeling of safety. School counselors recognize and respond to the need for mental health and behavioral prevention, early intervention, and crisis services that promote psychosocial wellness and development for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Reem. We've also been working on social emotional learning and trauma-informed principles in our schools, and so I'd like to invite James Soward, who is our program specialist for our STARS team, which he'll share with you.
Thank you, Board. So it's very encouraging because everything that was said from the community is actually what our office is working on. And so when we're looking at building and empowering our students to become leaders, to become inter and interpersonal successes, that's what our office has been working on. So through our social emotional learning, we're looking at 5 different components. And through this, our counselors are going to begin to start addressing our students with these 5 topics, with teaching our students self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and healthy decision-making. All these things will make our students positive people in the community, which will cause our community to become a better community. So we're doing this through all our counselors are going to be using these 5 components to teach our students when we're working with our students one-on-one and in groups. So what we've done this summer is that we've, with the program at Jones has a program where they're doing with the foster youth, and we've been able to pilot a program with those students. It's been about 50 students, me and another one of the program specialists, the restorative justice team and the PBIS team all came together, and we created a curriculum for this summer, and we presented that curriculum to the students over these 6 weeks. And the students have really enjoyed it, and they've been able to learn these components that we feel will build them to be better students. This will also help them access their education. So again, we have all these great things happening in academics, and the teachers are teaching them all these great topics and subjects, but sometimes our students aren't in the mental capacity to, because of some things that's going on in their lives or in their homes, to access that. And we want to teach them and give them the skills to begin to access that through these 5 components. And so so then my work is through the STARS grant, where we got the federal grant, and we kind of talked about this last year with the board, and it was a federal grant, and the district received $3.2 million to give services to 8 of our schools, and we are piloting some of these things through these schools, and the schools are Bing Wong, Hunt, Del Rosa, Barton, Indian Springs, Pacific, Devalejo, and Curtis Middle School. And these schools were chosen based upon the crime statistics in the area. So what my team, a team of 4 counselors, provide extra counseling to these schools. So the Tier 1 counselor is able to continue to work with the Tier 1 kids and then this counselor is working in cahoots with them, with the other counselors. So our 3 objectives through the grant is to decrease violent and aggressive disruptive behavior, an annual increase in student access to mental health, and we've been talking about that through this meeting today, and then the annual increase in school engagement where kids are feeling more connected to the school. And so how we're planning to do this and we're working on this is to become a trauma-informed school. So everything the young lady just gave you guys, the paper with the questions and all that, that's what we're educating our teachers on becoming trauma-informed when they're dealing with our students, so when they're dealing with our students, they're creating an environment where our students do not feel unsafe in the school because of maybe I'm yelling at you or because all the things that could be happening, and also looking at the indirect trauma that some of the students might be bringing on to the teachers and teaching our teachers or educating our teachers about self-care, taking care of themselves so they can be better teachers for the students.
And there's also trigger points too.
And the triggers and teaching.
Yeah, because you can come at them at a certain way.
Yes.
And for them, they'll act according to what they naturally feel by how they're coming to them.
Exactly. So we want to educate our teachers about the neuroscience that goes into this trauma piece, educating them to be informed when they're dealing hands-on with the students, and so that we can keep our students in the brain capacity to access their education. And so what we're doing in our office is totally meeting the needs of the students in our community, clearly from what we got from our presentation so far. So that's the work we're doing so far in my part.
Thank you, James. Now, I'd also like to share with you what our district crisis intervention team is and what we do. So basically, we deploy our intervention team when there's a traumatic event that affects a multiple number of students or staff at a campus or a district office. We have 44 members. They consist of nurses, psychologists, and counselors. And we have regular meetings. They've all been trained with the PREPARE curriculum, which comes from the National Association for School Psychologists. In 2015, 2016, we had 19 crisis responses. For 2016-17, we had our first recently, which affected Del Rosa, Lincoln, CalSafe, and CAPS. Trayvon Williams was a CalSafe baby, so his mother did attend CNG and was enrolled in our CalSafe program. And then he lived in the area of Del Rosa Elementary in the apartments there, so we did send the crisis intervention team on Monday to Del Rosa because they're doing a summer program there to help the students there get through whatever concerns that they might have. The typical response is a site manager will contact the alternative programs office. We have 4 teams. Of the 44, they're divided into 4 different teams, and they have a leader for each of those teams. Part of the self-care process is that we make sure we rotate the teams. So if team 1 went out last time, then we'd move on to team 2, team 3, team 4, and then rotate. And that helps our members just have a little self-care. And then from there, we arrive on the site within 30 minutes, if that's applicable. We've had cases where we've had 2 or 3 crises in the same day, and what we do is we walk around in our wallets with our list of, as you can see, it's tattered and worn, the teammates, and we start calling people and asking them, are they available? Please head over to Del Rosa, please head over to Lincoln, and so on. And so that's how the district crisis intervention team works. And then we also have a debriefing time. They do create an action plan with the administrator and the staff when they arrive on campus, and then it's our job to implement the action that we've decided with the staff on campus. Next steps in terms of alternative programs and mental health services, we are currently developing an integrated multi-tiered support structure grounded in trauma-informed principles to include the following. So we want to provide professional development and support for our counselors and our administrators. We want to start having the conversations with administrators, principals, and co-administrators of what exactly trauma-informed principles are and how do we create trauma-sensitive schools. We also are training in social-emotional learning and we're doing that at all steps. Next week, we have different days, one with rec aides, one with classified staff. There's a pre-service counselor day where we are training various staff members on social emotional learning and trauma-informed principles, de-escalating techniques. We have a pilot initiative. We would like to hire staff members to provide our own mental health team within our district, that are district-employed members. And I'd like to invite Reem up again so that she can just share with you a little bit about why we want to create our mental health team and how that would help our district.
Hello. Currently, when we see a student who needs counseling services, if we refer out to our community-based organizations such as Victory Community or Family Service Agencies, they have to be Medi-Cal eligible. If they don't have Medi-Cal, they won't be seen. We would then have to tell the parent that they would have to go through their private insurance. A lot of the times, the parent who has a private insurance is already, busy working or doesn't want to take that next step to have to go take their child from one person that they just opened up and shared everything with to someone else and start all over with that process again. So when we see the students, we're able to, it takes a long time to create a very trusting environment with students who are experiencing things. It's not easy to talk to students to have them open up. So once they do, we end up having to make a referral and sort of send them out to someone else. This way, we'll be seeing our own students within the district. A lot of the time, some of the referrals that we do make, from my experience, is that there's a time limit for when the parent has to respond and make an appointment for their intake appointment for their student. Many times we'll get a fax back saying that they're unable to contact the student's parents, and if they don't call back within a week, that the referral gets placed inactive. So these are some of the obstacles that we've come across with students. If they don't have Medi-Cal, they're not able to receive therapeutic services through these outside services. And also, the parents have created, we've created a relationship with the parents at the district level. Many parents ask, well, why can't, when I have to ask for their permission to make a referral, why can't the school counselor just see my student? Why do I have to go somewhere else? So this is part of the reason why having a mental health team would really be beneficial to our general ed students as well.
And what you see before you on number 2, those are 3 of the licenses that we could combine with a pupil personnel services plus LMFT, LCSW, LPCC. Reem actually is working on doing her hours for LPCC, but we have many school counselors within our school district that have their marriage and family license, or they are working towards their LPCC, and so it would be great if that could be one more step within our district for a counselor to move into a mental health team position. Thank you.
I see 3, 4, or 5 lights on. If it's something you can hold until they finish, I know they would appreciate it. If not, if it's a die-hard.
This is just, can I just because it's in this area, I don't want to lose it. You talked about the teams that there's people that can't get service if they don't qualify for Medi-Cal, but we could create another type of team that wouldn't have that requirement. So my question to Ms. Christakis, the money that is listed on page 11, could that money be used to create that team?
This would be for, what we're working on is a mental health team for general ed students, and Mr. Dominguez is going to talk about the services that are provided for the special education students.
So this money, so the answer is, this money cannot be spent on students who are non-special ed, is that right?
Yes, sir.
But then it still haven't answered the other question though. Do they have to be Medi-Cal students?
No.
Okay.
ERMS money are for students on IEPs receiving special.
So my point is, it could help with those students who don't qualify for Medi-Cal, but are special ed. And I think we should look at doing that. We should hire people with this money that we haven't spent and use it to service those students. You presented what a need is. We have a solution. There's no way, you don't have to look for the money. The money's here already. And the money's been there for a lot of years. And I know Dr. Hill says I micromanage, but when the money doesn't get spent for multiple years, I don't mind micromanaging because it's going to service the kids that you said yourself have the need. So we shouldn't have to tell the parent, even though your kid's special ed, but he may not be qualified for Medi-Cal, that we can't service you, because we can.
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Tillman, if you'll allow us to finish the presentation, you'll find that we have Dr. Parez here, and we've created just such a team under the special education dollars, and so that's exactly the direction that we've gone.
But with that, go ahead.
Well, yours can't, yeah, go ahead,
Well,
Nancy.
but with that, I just want to emphasize, will this money, can this money be used for students who are not identified with an IEP 0501? Because for me, there's a lot of kids who do have issues that needs to be addressed, but don't have, you know, those titles attached to it. So that's my concern, is making sure that those children who have shown that could be used for that. I'm sorry?
The dollars that you're referring to on slide 11, and we'll get to
Okay.
shortly, are restricted dollars that are only to be spent on children who are on an IEP or are special ed. The dollars that that Ms. Lalama is talking about, one, going back to the $3.2 million grant is one piece, and then on the bottom of page 7, the positions that we're proposing to create a mental health team will be our LCFF general fund dollars, and that's what the pilot that we're proposing.
And that would help also.
But again, that would be out of our regular general dollars. Those are for general education kids who may or may not be on Medi-Cal.
Ms. Rogers, do you need to ask yours, or can you wait? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good evening, board members and cabinet. My name is Mike Dominguez. I'm the Director of Special Education. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about educationally related mental health services, ERMS services. On June 30th, 2011, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, signed AB 114. And what AB 114 did, it switched the onus of responsibility for providing mental health services from the Department of Behavioral Health to the SELPAs in California. The target population for the ERMS services are special education students who are having emotional or behavioral problems that is affecting their ability to benefit from their special education services. And you can see this in terms of student absences, referrals, the lack of progress on goals, and suspensions. I do have Dr. Federico Parez with me tonight. He's a clinical psychologist. He's a clinical therapist for our school district. He moonlights as a professor at Cal State San Bernardino, and he created our ERMS team, and he's here tonight to talk about ERMS services.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
The slide I'm responsible for talking about is the ERM slide. But if you look at the first 5 things, it says, the first one says services must be included in the IEP, and that, what triggers that is an assessment, a request by the IEP team members, and that could be from a teacher, it could be from a parent, it could be from an advocate, it could be from the student themselves if they're at the age of majority, or even if they're not. Then what happens is one of our therapists does an evaluation using a clinical assessment and various other tools, much like what our school psychologists use to determine eligibility in special ed. But our target is specifically the social emotional needs of a student. And it's predicated on the fact that are they struggling with their academics, and if that struggle is, the cause of that struggle is an emotional condition, such as depression or schizophrenia or hearing voices or psychosis. It's very severe. It's a tier 3 service that we provide. And if you look at the slide, you look at individual counseling and parent training. That's the area that we've targeted very well in the last year because we just took the services over from the Desert Mountain SELPA a year ago. And we did that initially with 5 clinicians. We've been targeting the individual counseling, and those are the services that we took over from Desert Mountain that was written into the IEP. The other thing that we're targeting this year is parent training and the social work services, and that's one of the things that we did is we went and hired 3 disciplines that we needed in order to fulfill the requirements of ERMS. And those three disciplines that we're talking about are clinical psychologists, a licensed marriage family therapist, and licensed clinical social workers. And we targeted social workers so that we could open up the service that is up there that says social work services. And some of those services entails going into the home and helping parents, collaborate and have this collaborative relationship with our district employees, but also helping them access services to other agencies, right? So they have family members that have need of services from the regional center, even though that's not the target student that we're working with, but we know that they need that service, or helping them set up Medi-Cal appointments, or for eligibility for Medi-Cal, or following through with DBH services. That's what the social work component up there is showing, and that's what we're targeting this year. We have a collaborative relationship with Loma Linda that we've already approved on the MOU. We have another one coming up soon to the board for Cal State San Bernardino, for that reason, specific reason. The other one, the parent training model, is the other reason we selected social workers, because they're very good at parent training. The trainers that we're going to have and develop the parent training program is BA level social workers from Loma Linda and Cal State, which is part of their curriculum, and also master's levels. So we're going to take on 4 BA levels from Cal State and 4 from Loma Linda, and then 4 masters from each school. So we'll have a total of probably 16 students. And we need the social workers that we hired in order for them to be actually monitored and supervised. That's the curriculum, and that's one of the qualifications from the university that we have to honor and respect. The other thing is psychological services. That we've developed a very systematic way of doing the assessments. We're using various psychological tests that our school psychologists use, but have been also evidence-based that show that they're very good at determining whether someone is suffering from an emotional condition. And we put that all together with our clinical interview, our classroom observations, teacher input, parent input, student input, to determine whether the student qualifies or not. Now, the last piece there, or the second to last piece, is other evidence-based practices. And the state's moving into auditing these monies that have been out there. And it's a lot of money, as you well know, as you can see some of the carryover that we have. And what we're doing is, when we've hired our clinicians, we are looking for clinicians who are well-versed in evidence-based therapies, so that we have that documented in the notes. And the other thing that we're looking at is hiring someone who is a BCBA, who is an expert in applied behavioral analysis. Because we know that some of our kids have behavior problems, but we don't have the expertise of developing a systematic way of ameliorating some of those problems. But with that component there, I think that will help some of our students that have those kind of problems. And then we'll have a systematic way of targeting them with other, what we call RBTs, to provide the services in the classroom, and then we'll pull those that person out of that service once we see that that behavior has been ameliorated. And the last one is the residential treatment, which is our most costly, and it is our more restrictive, because it requires students to be taken away from their home and placed in a residential facility. No one likes that. However, some of these behaviors require that kind of service. It's the most costly that we have. It runs anywhere, well, I won't even get into the cost, but it's costly. If you look at our numbers, we started in 2011, we had 11 students, and we've come down to 2. And one of the reasons, there are 2 factors that those services have, in terms of the number of students, has decreased. One is we've taken the kind of paradigm shift, philosophical perspective that if we provide our kids more therapy and more counseling at the non-public school level, then we will prevent residential referrals, and it's worked. And as you can see, we went from 11 to 2. And historically, I've managed the residential unit when I worked for the Department of Behavioral Health, and this district has been very, very good at keeping the numbers low since 1997, and that's when we started placing kids in residential treatment. And this district hovers between 2 and 5. 11 was high, but as you will see, historically, it's been very low. And part of that is because of the way we actually look at and target our students in providing the right services to them. That's the slide. Any questions?
We'll
Oh, Mike.
hold, if you don't mind, we'll hold them until you finish.
All right.
Everybody would just.
Thank you,
get
Dr.
your little
Morris.
pads to write your little notes, please. Thank you. Mr. Tillman and others.
And to go over the ERMS timeline, before 2011, the Department of Behavioral Health handled all mental health referrals. They were AB 2726 referrals. And then once AB 114 was signed, we had to figure out a way to provide the mental health services to our students. Dr. Ron Powell at the Desert Mountain SELPA had been working on creating a ERMS program for 20 years. So he had an up and running program, and we did have a high number of students in residential treatment. So we contracted with Desert Mountain SELPA to provide the ERMS services for us. In 2015, that is when the district team started. Dr. Parras started as a psychotherapist, and he created his team. The therapists that we hire are hybrid therapists. So they are school psychologists, and then they are licensed in one of the other three fields that Dr. Parras mentioned: licensed clinical social worker, marriage family therapist, or clinical psychologist. We, as Dr. Parras said, we this year are adding a behavioral team to handle some of those behavioral problems. We're adding a board-certified behavioral analyst, and we're hiring 10 registered behavioral technicians. This district had the first 2 RBTs in the state of California. There are hundreds now, but we were cutting edge on training our folks to be registered behavioral technicians. What we're going to do is we're going to employ the behavioral team kind of as a strike team. When a student is having behavioral problems, they're going to go in, they're going to help the site team figure out what the student needs as far as therapy. They're going to help the site team put a plan in place, and then they're going to wean off from the site team and leave them with those new skills to work with these students that have behavioral issues. Currently, our program serves 81 students, and we have 66 in the hopper. And now I'll go to the ERMS budget slide, and I will turn it over to Ms. Christakos.
So as Mr. Dominguez and team talked about, this was new to all school districts in the 2011-12 school year. That was the first year we received revenue, about $2.1 million, and that's where most of the carryover occurred in that year and the second year. You can see on this slide what occurred in 14-15, so you see that carryover of $5.4 million. The revenues are steady at about $2.9 million, and then the expenditures for 14-15. And then we're projecting where we'll end the year for 15-16 at $5.4 million, and then our budget for 16-17. The positions that the team talked about this evening have all been budgeted, and they're about an additional $1 million. So the total salaries are just under $3 million. And so you can see ongoing that that budget, we'll be able to sustain it with the staff. And we also have carryover that will help with some of the other things that we need to get the program going. We do have a couple of kids, as you saw, students that are in placement, so some of those expenditures haven't hit the books yet, but we will present a final ending balance to you in September when we close the books.
As far as the ERMS next steps, right now we are billing Medi-Cal for the services we provide at the LEA provider rate. The LEA provider rate is lower than once we become a mental health clinic. Those rates are reimbursed at a much higher rate. So what we'd like to do is expand services. There are a lot of students in San Bernardino City Unified School District that could use more of these mental health services, and we're going to seek them out, and we're going to provide those services to them. We're going to expand the internship program, as Dr. Parras talked about. And once we get to a certain point of proficiency, we're going to apply to the Department of Behavioral Health to become a mental health provider. If we are successful in contracting with DBH to become a mental health provider, then we will be able to be reimbursed at a much higher rate, Medi-Cal rate, and we'll be able to serve students whether they have IEPs or not. And we can open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll start, yeah, but I want to start, like, all the lights are on, so it'd be easy just to start here, because I don't know who comes after Gwen. Let's just start with Mr. Tillman, I think, and go down, and I'll be last. Okay.
So just so I'm clear on the budget, all the proposed positions you guys talked about, is that reflected in the 2016, 2017 budget that you presented tonight?
Yes, sir.
So even with that, you're still projecting to have an ending balance of $4 million?
Yes, sir.
So that's what my concern is. Now, tell me if I'm missing something, but we know we have a lot of need. You said that yourself, and you know other areas that we can serve. I like to see us. I would like for you guys to come back to us within the next quarter with the proposal to spend more of this money to service kids. I don't know what the law is in terms of. I would love to see a list of all the things that we could spend the money on, because you guys are getting real specific about what you can't and what you are spending money on. But are there other things we can spend the money on to help all these kids that have needs? And just so I move through it real quick, do we know what the capacity is for IEPs? How many IEPs can we do at a site per year?
Unlimited. It's based on the needs of the students.
Yeah, but that's the wrong answer, because I know we have a waiting list, right?
For
During a year. How long does it take to do an IEP once a person asks for an IEP?
Once a referral is made for an IEP, a response has to be provided in writing within 15 days.
Okay.
And if the student is going to be assessed, an IEP has to be held within 60 days.
So when I hear parents talk about they asked for an IEP and it took months and somebody canceled or somebody didn't show up, so therefore it got rescheduled and they were looking at months before that's not true?
If we do not adhere to those timelines, we are out of compliance. So the district makes every effort to hold those IEPs within the timelines.
So are we ever out of compliance?
Let me answer that, Danny. We have a monthly compliance report
Right.
that I gave a copy to the board a couple months ago.
Okay.
We're hovering at around 91, 92% compliance across our schools.
All right.
So every month, all principals get a printout of outstanding IEPs,
Right.
and we're hovering at around 90% or so, which is high. The group of parents that you saw come present to the board and so on and so forth,
Right.
though they represented very specialized interests of advocates, and I wrote a detailed BC about those particular cases. I want to remind the board that we have 5,500 students on IEP in the district, with a 92% compliance rate, which is not 100%,
Right.
but is a strong.
No, and I don't ask the question to condemn you in any way. I just want to get a practical perspective of and a feel for what our capacity is, because I really think that a lot of times the problem is, and I don't know, but who has to attend the IEP?
An administrator,
Right.
the parent,
Right.
the teacher,
Right.
and that's it. And usually there's somebody else to speak to, like a school psychologist.
And if it's at an elementary school, sometimes they only have one administrator, right?
Yes.
And that could pose a problem, because if that principal has to go to a meeting somewhere, then you can't have the IEP, right?
You cannot have an IEP without an administrator
Yeah.
or an administrator designee.
So my only point is, I just wanted to be, I want to have some, I think, and I've said it for years, I think we should have an idea of how many IEPs you really can do a year, so we know what that number is, and then we can use that to look across all the schools to say, how many do we actually have? Because I think part of the problem, like for instance, the young lady talked tonight about being at the center and how she identified kids with some needs, right? So it'd be nice if there's a way that we could instigate that IEP for those students so they can get the services, if that's the only way to get the services. But just so I can close, because other people want to speak, I do wish, and I'm asking that somehow we see a list of items that we can spend this money on this year for this year's students, because I don't think we should, when we have a city with so many tragedies, we hear about, it was so sad last time to hear about the kids at the different schools that got killed. But you know they have siblings in our schools. Those kids should be getting service. And not only the ones that get killed, but there's kids like you talked about earlier, just in everyday life that have issues that should be getting service. I don't think a district with the needs that we have should have one penny left over at the end. Every year, we should spend every penny on those kids for that year. That's what should happen. And it's up to you guys to look at all the different ways that we can spend the money. And my fear is that you're getting too you're getting locked in too closely with the things that you think you can spend on. I hope you just get a laundry list of all the things that could benefit our kids and make sure we spend that money this year.
Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Maybe help me understand the program again, just basics. I see you've got 81 students in the program, spending about, what, 3.6 in 2014-15. You got a waiting list of like 66 more pending. And, you know, you divide the numbers up, it's like 40K or something per student. Is that kind of passing the sanity check? And these are basically 81 kids that we're talking about, not all the gazillion IEPs and all of this kind of stuff. This is targeted specifically to this program, and that budget goes along with those 81 kids, right?
Yes.
So does that pass a sanity check, about 44,000 a student?
Yes, except that the pending students are being assessed. They're not waiting to be assessed. They're in assessment.
But they're not being provided services, and hence a budget being expended on them.
That's correct.
So, you know, there's already 66 out of this, so we're paying 3.6 or so.
No, but the
so
staff who
you're
are
gonna start
assessing,
eating
the
away
staff
at
who are
that.
assessing are spending, we're spending salary on the staff who is assessing the kids.
Yeah, but well, I would imagine the bulk of the 44K is probably in some type of service provision. Is that correct? Or do you think the bulk of the 44,000 is in the assessment process? Well, you just take the 3.6, divide it by 81 students, and you're 44,000 a person, you know? I mean, just in general, just off the top of your head, you're just looking at it.
Well, to try to answer your question, the therapists and the psychs are assessing the students to see if they qualify for mental health services. So just because you're special education does not mean you have a mental health disorder.
Yeah, I know, but this budget, and all of these information is targeted to this specific program, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So I don't want to, I'm just trying to understand.
You're trying to get a
the
per
program
pupil
and this
amount.
budget, and those other peripheral issues do not come out of this budget. This is not relevant.
Well, no, what other
No,
peripheral
no.
issues?
Huh?
What peripheral issues?
Like the
All of the other IEPs, everything else you're doing in assessing, these are only pertaining to the 81 kids plus the 66 that you've conducted assessments on.
Yeah,
right?
so what?
That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
so we're saying there are 81 special education students receiving mental health services.
Right. And so I'm just, and what your point was, is that some of these dollars had been spent on the assessment process. And all I was asking, is that the bulk of the expenditure on the assessment, or is it in the actual providing of supportive services?
Yeah, so the 10 therapists and the leadership of Dr. Parvez, those are all salaries paid specifically to provide therapy for the students who are who qualify
So that's
for
where the
mental health
bulk of
services.
the money's going for the 81, is in the actual provision of services. And
Yes.
That's a fair amount of service you're providing for these 81 kids. I would
Absolutely.
imagine $44,000 worth.
Yeah, I agree.
Quite a bit of, yep, and, okay.
Thanks, Mike. I was just trying to understand your question,
I
so I
get
hope
it.
we answered it.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, all of the other issues we were talking about aren't coming out of these dollars.
No,
These
not at
dollars
all.
are specifically targeted to the 81 kids, plus the 66 in process of being assessed, that ultimately you'll probably be providing some sort of services for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So there's another pot of money we got to think through, guys, right? Well, I guess so we probably got enough to cover the 66 additional here, just in what we've got in carryover.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but these other resources and other things that we're funding in the prior briefing come out of a different budget category. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
Got it.
Is that it, Mr. Gallo?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Medina?
Yeah, and I think for me, that's why I was going to mention regarding the budget, if it would have been easier for me to see what was allocated for what for the $4.64 million in the expenditures for 2016, because that way I'm able to see if it is, like he mentioned, with the staff and with the psychologists and all of that, to see what's actually being spent. And I'm wondering, so we only have the 81 students plus the 66 6 students out of the 5,000. Is there any more cases that's out there, or is that's all the mental health students we have in the district?
There are more cases out there, and we're going to find those students. And some of that cost is also for the residentially placed students.
Yeah, and see, that would be helpful for at least me personally to see what does that breakdown look like, and just making sure that we do have the 2.9. Is that is that something that's just only for a certain amount of time, or is that every year we're going to be receiving that amount of money? And so if that's the case, then I guess what Danny was mentioning early is receiving, since we do have a leftover of $4.1 million, that's something that, I mean, I'm not saying to go zero completely, but there's resources that's available for the students to utilize to make sure that we're getting those students that we're not catching yet and providing those extensive services, because I know it's not going to be an easy task for you all. I also want to look back on the parent piece, the parent training. How are you guys able to help out? I know with many families, there's a stigma. And so when you're looking at even identifying, because the ERMSH services, that's more for students who are in the IEP, how are you reaching out? How is are you reaching out to parents regarding the stigma? Because a lot of parents don't want their kids tested, even though they probably do qualify. And I know there's Latinos, when we would go talk to different parents in the Latino families, African Americans, there's this negative stigma associated with that. And so how are you able to deal with and providing services for those students who not necessarily want to? And I know that's why we have that money from the general fund, but how are you helping parents understand and fight against the stigma of mental health?
What I've found is that the students that need these services have a lot of things going on at home, and parents are grateful for the services.
Okay.
So they know they have a problem. They know that their child needs help. So we don't really run into
You don't? Okay.
them not wanting the help or the services.
Okay. Yeah, because that was kind of like a little bit off from what I would hear from parents, that they didn't want their kids to be identified. Although they want the services, they just don't want the identification associated with it. But maybe times have changed since then. I also want to go back, since I had a lot of notes during the talks, was when you look at the grant for no, that wasn't the question. I'm sorry. Okay, when you look at the number for the crisis, we have 19 crisis responses for 2015, 2016. How did that look? What did it look like in previous years? Did we have that many crisis responses? And I know that it's traumatic events. Is this for the many recent shootings that we've had, or what is this constituent? What does it mean to have a traumatic event? And then in previous years, what does that look like?
So the crisis for this school year, it revolved around a second grade teacher passing, the airplane crash by Lancashire, students losing their lives. It also had to do with some parent connection with a loss of a student's life. So it all revolved either death or an event occurred that brought attention to the site administrator to call us and say, we need help here.
Okay.
And in terms of the previous years, I do not have the numbers from last year, so I would have to get that for you.
Yeah, it's just good to know, because if it's increased or if it's decreased or for whatever reason, might be, I know the city also has a big influence within when the student's passing away. So I'm curious, even if we had it allocated, so we could definitely show the city, look at, this is part responsibility of the city as well, to help with these issues. And let me scroll through.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be something good if we were to provide as well in the future. And I think I have some more. I also want to mention, you guys were talking about earlier, the gentleman, regarding the types of services, what it looks like. Because for me, it's always like, you can say it, you can describe it, but what does it actually mean to the student, and how is this really impacting them? I'm curious to see what kind of programs you guys are doing with the students, and the extensive training that you guys are receiving to make sure that we are up to date with all the type of services that we're able to provide the students. I passed by Bonnie O Elementary School, and one of the things that they're doing, that's why I'm curious on what other individuals are doing, is that the counselor there, there was all these children, there was like about 8 or 7 children watering, I guess, for water garden. They're doing a garden. And I asked the counselor, what are you guys doing? It's therapeutic because the kids get a chance to go outside, they're talking with each other, and a lot of these kids are going through trauma at their home or their life, so it was a great way for them to interact while they're gardening. They're releasing some of their anxieties or whatever issues they're going through at home. I'm just curious to see what does this look like at other school sites, and what are other counselors doing that maybe we can also, as a district, highlight and innovative or different ways of dealing with the stress the kids are going through. So that's just an idea. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the information.
Okay, Ms. Rogers.
Thank you. And thank you all as well for your presentation. Great job. I want to know, first of all, where does our relationship with the Department of Behavioral Health, or where are we at? And there's a portion of this that said that we are anticipating some formalized relationship in order to assist. Can you elaborate a little bit more? With the county? With the county Department of Behavioral Health.
Yes, I would actually like to ask Dr. Pars if he could respond to that question. Okay. He worked for the Department of Behavioral Health, and he's got a lot of experience.
Right.
Actually, I worked for the Department of Behavioral Health for 12 years,
Yes.
so I do have established network and friendship there, specifically some of the higher administrators there, and
Right.
I've had dialogues with them to discuss when we move forward into the direction of having a full-scale, full scope Medi-Cal billing process and having a contract with them. So the dialogue's been in place. It's been informal, hasn't been formalized yet, because I know that we needed to first establish this ERMS model and develop a team before we move forward and then start talking about what contracts and the language that we use. We've also reached out to Desert Mountain South on that piece because Ron, the previous HELPA director, Powell, was very instrumental in developing those kind of networking and friendships. So the same persons that he developed the contracts with are the same people that I worked with in the past. So those people are still there. There isn't a sense of urgency. They've been there for a while, and I know they'll be there for the next 3 or 4 years.
So do we have kind of a time frame that we're working with? We think within the next?
Maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
Okay, so it's a 3-year out
Yeah.
situation. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My other question is, and I'm happy, very happy to see that internally we're going to look at the mental health pieces and the, and the utilizing the trauma-informed process. But the counselors, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, that
Reem.
I know you spoke about the counselors, and I mean, this is probably the first time that I've heard just all the mountain of things that the counselors do. How many counselors are on each campus, or, I mean, the capacity to be able to do all that you described?
It varies between campuses. Most of the elementaries have one counselor, and that was thanks to our LCAP funding, where they were, it used to be shared campuses, but now we have one at every campus. And then at middle school, it varies between 1 to 3 counselors. At high school, anywhere from 5 to 9.
And what determines the number? Because with the amount of mental health issues that we're facing and that our students are facing, and as well as their parents are having issues, one counselor, I mean, how do we determine those numbers, or why is that the formula, I guess?
It's based on the number of students that are enrolled at the school site. With elementary counseling, that was LCAP funding that allowed that to happen, and so we went from having shared counseling to 1 counselor per campus. In terms of middle school and high school, again, it's based on enrollment.
And I would wonder, the concern that I would have is when you are, and definitely there is a stigma on mental health, and it's very important to establish those relationships because there's a trust factor there. And so and when we say shared, is it the same person that's going back, that would have been going back and forth with the student?
When it was a time in our district where our counselors were shared, that meant that they didn't have one school. They traveled from school to school. And now we have 1 counselor per elementary, and that is their base.
Okay, so they stay there with the students. So that is good news. But is the numbers are what we have established as at each school? You said something from 1 to 9 or something like that. Is that a good number? Is it working?
Our numbers are lower than the surrounding areas. However, we're always working to improve.
Is that something we should be looking at to add more counselors based on the concerns that we're having? And I'm saying because it was a very lengthy, and it's not to put anybody on the spot. I mean, I see everybody kind of looking, but I mean, I heard your presentation. I heard, what you said the counselors do, and we see students when we go on campus, and they're needing attention in some sort. I went, and I'm a parent, so it's like one counselor, and everybody else is standing out waiting to get whatever it is that they're trying to get. Sometimes it's academic, sometimes it's an emotional issue, and the student just says, I'm done with it, and walk off.
One of the programs that we house at Alternative Programs is that we have a partnership with Cal State San Bernardino, and so our counselors are able to have counseling interns work with them, and that helps. And then it also helps us to see up-and-coming school counselors for future positions. We also have our counselors work in clusters, so there are cluster group leaders that lead the cluster of counselors. We have an elementary cluster leader, middle school and high school. And so our counselors really band together to create a comprehensive school counseling program using the ASCA model and the expectations.
And so we'll be using our relationship with Loma Linda, definitely for interns.
We do that currently, and so we do have Loma Linda University interns that are on our campuses as well.
Okay, that's good. And I know we talked about the 66. Well, I want to go back to the campuses. So there are 8 pilots, I think I heard on the foster, and I'm excited to hear about foster youth. Anytime that comes up, I'm just really excited because it is a population that sometimes go unnoticed. But we have 8 schools in the pilot for the foster youth, and that just started, or was that what we said?
No, the STARS program, we are targeting 8 schools for the 3.2,
That's the STARS,
the
okay.
grant, right. During the summertime at Jones Elementary,
Okay.
Alternative Programs and the Foster Homeless Youth Coordinator, we partnered together, and the PBIS RJ coaches, our counseling coach, and then also our STARS coach, our program specialist, we all got together at the same table and said, how could we provide more services to the youth that foster homeless youth we're already going to serve, and can we add a social emotional learning curriculum to what they're already doing? And so we piloted a 6-week curriculum during the summer. This is the last week. Friday's the last day for them. And it was successful. The students really were engaged. We had them do surveys and feedback, and we felt like if we could do it at Jones Elementary during the summer for those 50 students, why not get all of our counselors involved with that at the school sites? So one of the next steps is to train our counselors on social emotional learning development, which is part of the ASCA national model. Part of the domain is social emotional development, and so it ties right into what their expectations are. It connects to the LCAP goals, and it connects to our KPI goals.
And that sounds great, because that was my next question, is how could we get it out to more schools? Or if it worked, that's definitely something we want to model. So that would lead into my question, what they learned or what they're doing at that level, say for example, that program, how does this information translate over to our teachers, what the counselors are doing, so that everyone is on the same page, with the students and what the efforts are? Where is the connection there?
So we've invited certificated staff, administrators, classified staff, non-classified staff next week to various workshops that will provide information for them on social emotional learning within their job description, traumatic principles, the ASCA model, PBIS, RJ, and all of that is happening next week. But part of our next steps is to continue the staff development and send our coaches to sites to work with staff, to work with the principals and the co-administrators so that we can continue growing the social emotional learning knowledge.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Dr. Flores?
Thank you so much for your presentation. You're doing a lot. It's very comprehensive, and I particularly am happy to see that you're going to move forward and build professional development among yourselves, and also build teams of differing types of expertise to deal with the mental health of our other kids. I saw that, I guess crisis response intervention, my question deals with, does that include bullying and suicide?
There is a suicide assessment that occurs, and we collaborate with school police on that, and then also our counselors are trained as well to assess, and then they contact if we need additional assistance.
Because the research says that high school kids have the highest suicide rate, and the kids don't know who to call or what to do. So I personally, and I think all of us on the board, would want to make sure that that's included. Bullying as well, because then the bullying sometimes leads to suicide and so forth. I also know that at Arroyo, there were massive fights related to race relationships between Latinos and African Americans. And I would like to see where we would develop, cross-race and ethnic relationships with our kids so that they learn how to communicate and respect each other. I don't know if you deal with that at all. It's under social emotional, and we rarely speak about it. But the kids need to learn about, respect, just like Lene was here and talked about. The kids are learning to respect each other and respect themselves and so forth. I don't know if that's in your horizon, but I would like to pose that as also another area that I think it's really important. And the kids, I know as a high school teacher, when I did run groups in cross-race relationships, they learned to respect each other, and the fights went down. They just have to know. And I imagine that in self-esteem, you're dealing with identity as well? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to also ask you about, in terms of the residential treatment, what does that entail? What kinds of residential treatment do our students require? What's the range?
Residential treatment is for students that have needs that are so severe that they cannot live at home and benefit from their education at school. So they are taken usually out of state, and they live in a treatment center, and they receive their schooling there at the treatment center.
At the treatment center, okay. And then I wanted to ask you about our autistic kids. What are the services that we're providing for our autistic kids, and how many do we have out of those 5,500 kids? Do you have that data off the top of your head?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but the autistic students receive any services that they need to benefit from their education. Typically, autistic students do not respond to social cues as quickly as somebody who is not disabled. So it takes thousands and thousands of repetitions to get the autistic students to learn some things sometimes. And then there's autism is a spectrum disorder, so there's a range. There's students that are very effective. They can't even communicate because of their autism, and then there's students you can hardly tell, and they're just a little quirky.
Okay.
But social issues are one of the hallmark characteristics of
Right,
students.
of the autistic kids, that's what I was asking. I'm really glad that Dr. Paras is on board and that we have your expertise and also, the years of experience you have with the county as well as Cal State. Those are the links we have to make. We have to make all those links among ourselves because we'll provide the expertise and the services for our community, and I thank you for that. The medical billing that you brought up is very key. Dr. Mitchell, are we on it in terms of providing the medical billing?
I'll let Mr. Dominguez address that.
Right now, we are reimbursed at the local educational area rate, the LEA rate, and it's lower. But in order to become a provider for DBH, there's very stringent things that have to be in place. Record keeping has to be immaculate. There's a level of expertise. And what Dr. Parz and I did, and Dr. Mitchell, is we started the mental health program at that level.
Okay.
So when we do move to the provider rate, our clinicians already take the type of records that are necessary to get that funding.
To get the billing, okay, because I know it's very crucial, because if you don't adhere to all the specifications, you're denied. And so we need to, I mean, there's lots of money that we can recoup as a district, and that's the money that we can use, Danny, to also expand our services for our kids that don't meet the Medi-Cal, right? The Medi-Cal.
That's correct.
Criteria. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you do. It's a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Wyatt?
Well, good evening, and like everybody else has said, thank you for all the work that you've done. And, you know, it's, when you sit here and you're the last, you hear everything, so I don't want to belabor you with some of the questions that have already come up. But this evening, after listening to everyone here and looking at your presentation in detail, it's become very clear to me what my concerns have been. And it's the difference between ERMS and MTSS. That's what I'm seeing now. Two totally different services, even though they sound the same. In regards to funding options and how we're going to deliver those models, I believe them to be different. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
It is, huh? So my big concern now is not really ERMS. We have the funding there, we have a lot going on there, but now it's the MTSS.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at 3.2 million over 5 years with 8 targeted schools. That, you know, we're hearing it's not enough. Now, when we look at trauma-informed care and the number of students in our district, which, you know, we say 50,000, 54,000, we're in between those numbers somewhere. Even if we only had like 10% of our kids that were impacted, that number's huge. We're still talking over 5,000 kids. With ERMS, we're only looking at 147 students really being identified and served. So to me, and again, this just came to light really right now, this evening, there's a huge discrepancy in our delivery model, our funding, and what I believe the resources needed to serve our students in our community, as well as getting our staff prepared. So it is an even bigger concern to me now on the one half. ERMS I feel comfortable with, I do, with what we've been doing and, you know, where we've come from since 2011. But when I look at this and I think about our kids who are being exposed to trauma on a daily basis throughout our city and our community, I mean, you've heard, you know, what my colleagues have had to say, and just with the 2 young students that have been killed this year, just the trauma around those 2 events and at those schools and with our staff, I think the challenge before us is even greater than I thought. And so, you know, 1, thank you for what you're doing. But 2, I believe we need to do a lot more in regards to our board, our district, supporting you in this mission. I'm emotional about it because some of you that know me much closer know how this hits home for me. And I know there are kids that are falling through the cracks. As you already know, my son would have been one of them. But I was informed. So many of our parents out there are not. So many of our staff out there are not. And they're on the front lines, dealing with our students every day. And things we see as behavior, concerns, depression, with being withdrawn, whatever it may be, those are all signs that we're not necessarily trained to see as trauma. So, wow, after looking at this, I'm looking at it as a resource versus ability. And we have a almost $2 million rollover in ERMS, but we only have $3.2 million for 5 years for 8 schools for MTSS. There's no way in heck that we're going to be able to meet the need of our students with that kind of money over 5 years and only 8 schools. Okay, and I'm not putting this on you, I'm putting this on us as a board and as a district to solve that problem. Because that's huge. It really is, and man, did I not realize it till right now just how big this is. You know, and, you know, Ms. Sauer, you and I, we had this long talk. I want to compliment him and your partner. I can't remember her name right now. Ms. Burr, right? I said John Burr Honda. That's how I try to remember. Ms. Burr, what started out as just hello turned into almost an hour-and-a-half conversation. And that, to me, really showed the dedication and passion of our staff towards wanting to meet this challenge and serve our students that have this tremendous need, and training our staff to be able to deliver those services. I've been studying this now for 2 years, diligently, and I'm still learning. So that's the challenge I put before our board, is developing this MTSS program, trauma-informed care, tiered system of care, multi-tiered system of whatever it is you want to call it. But to me, it's a huge challenge before us. And, you know, Dr. Mitchell, thank you again for working with me on this, and the rest of us and your staff. I will just say this much: you have my full support on making this happen. Thank you.
Mr. Tillman?
Well, I guess in terms of Mr. Wyatt, I think you guys learned, some people you don't say, hey, how you doing to. I'll just play. I want to say thank you to the staff that does the work. I mean, I ask these questions and all this stuff, we talk about money, but I know when you guys talk about sending our crisis team, that's a tough job. And I know, I want to say thank you for doing that job. I know because I work for the County of San Bernardino, and one of the departments I support is CFS, Children and Family Services. So I know the tough job they have of recruiting social workers and maintaining social workers, and how people get burnt out, and just the job that you guys have to do. So I don't take that for granted, and I hope you don't take it that way, that I don't realize the work that you do, because I do. And I understand that, but I do understand how it impacts our kids. So of course, that's the drive we want for more. And I just want to end by saying, I hope that we do get something back, and I talked to Ms. Christakis, she's going to work with me, because I really want to find a way to make sure that we say, with this money that we have on page 11, that none of that money in any way can be used to service the students that he's talking about. That's the key right there. And I hope it's not just because we're just doing what we've always done, or this is what we think we can do. It has to be based on what the law says we can use that money for. And we need to be creative about how can we, if there's, and you guys can come back and tell us, is there a way that we can use this money for those other areas that we have the great need in? And I really think there is. So I hope that's going to be a to-do item, and you guys will come back and give us a update, because I'd like to see this number change in the interim. And you say it went from being a projected ending balance of $4 million to at least a few $1 million less than that, because we found a way we could use that money to provide some of the other services you guys talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. I'm big on protocol. I apologize for going once more, but Janie, is that 4.2 million, is that restricted funding to ERMS only? That's the $1 million question for me, our $4.2 million question.
Yes, that is our understanding. We do have documentation that we can share with you that's from the California Department of Education that says how those dollars can be spent, but it is pretty restricted. But I looked at the list of things that are allowable if it's in the IEP. And so that's my understanding, it has to be in the IEP for those
That's why
students.
it's getting them identified.
And that was my other piece here, and I apologize again, because I did write it down, but I didn't bring it up. And where are we in regards to utilizing 504 plans? And I know it's two totally different laws, and 504 plans would more than likely come under MTSS and not ERMS. Because, I mean, we just have this, and Dan, you've been saying it repeatedly, and I'm right there with you, we have this excess of funds, and maybe we'll need it more in the future as we further develop ERMS. We have more kids on residential treatment, but still, we're going to be lacking the funding what we need for MTSS. And I
Well, and
understand
if they have an IEP, they qualify for ERMS, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Regardless
not
of its
MTSS.
Medicare.
So,
That's the big difference here.
so my question.
You have to understand that.
Yeah, for my question for MTSS, we can use the medical billing money for MTSS, right? I mean, I would like
So,
clarification on that.
so the MTSS is a process. It's kind of an umbrella process that,
Right.
An SST process where kids would then get funneled into services. So that process, you count all of your K through 12 counselors. They're providing a service related that we heard tonight. But the Medi-Cal billing, you can allocate as much general fund dollars to your MTSS as the board wants.
Mhm. But the Medi-Cal dollars can't go.
No,
to the
typically the
MTSS.
Medi-Cal dollars we're putting back into,
Okay.
back
And
into our.
I'd like to know how much money we get. What's the total?
What was the last? Do you remember the last amount we got in Medi-Cal billing? Janie,
It looks like to date, through June 30th, 2015, was about 862,000 was our budget, and we've received 602,000 of that.
Mhm. That's not, given what we have, I mean, given all 5,500 kids, that should be more. Yeah, it's only about 10%, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Can you clarify with MTSS for the audience? Might be that they're kind of confused now that we're talking about it.
So multi-tiered systems of support that's the umbrella. And so when a teacher is referring a student for either behavior or for academic intervention, there's a pre-SST process where we look at the student, identify if there's any history in the CUME, any notes on the student, and then that moves into, and we try interventions at that level, and then at that point, if the interventions aren't working at the site level, then we move to an SST, which is a student success team. That incorporates the parent, the student, staff members, and we meet and discuss what are the issues or concerns about the student, whether it's academic or behavioral, and we come up with interventions at that point to try in the classrooms and at the school site with the student. We come back 2 to 3 times to check, and we progress monitor that. So that's all done at the site level with the site team. If after all of those interventions have been exhausted at the site, then the site team might recommend for the student to be assessed for special education. If they're assessed for special education and they're eligible, then that turns into the student now is eligible to have an IEP, and that is one route. Another route is if the student has some type of life activity or some type of life experience is affecting their education. For example, they have such bad asthma that they aren't coming to school, or if they have certain criteria that doesn't fit the criteria for an IEP, then a Section 504 meeting will take place. And at that meeting, you might have the nurse, you might have the same team, the SST team, and then that would turn into a Section 504 plan where the team has created accommodations for the students that aren't part of the IEP. It's not special education, but it's a Section 504. And we monitor that, and every year, it's an annual revision. We meet annually to see how the student is doing and if we need to continue those Section 504 accommodations or do we need to exit them from the 504. But it is not special education. It's still general ed services, the counselors involved with any Tier 1 or Tier 2, Tier 1 or Tier 2 services within the Section 504.
Okay, thank you for that.
I want to add to that because that to me is where I see where we're having a breakdown. We get to the 504 plan, we create a plan, but the services that we need in regards to treatment is my concern. We're only at a site level still when we talk about where we're at with that 504 plan. We haven't reached into deeper treatment in regards to addressing whatever the physical disability may be, and a 504 plan could be a lifelong accommodation. I want you to know that. And it all has to do is impact any major life functioning that we have. That could be walking, seeing, talking, hearing, whatever it may be. It's a rather broad area, but we kind of have to be more specific. But, Ms. Medina, just to kind of go where you're asking, that is to me where I see an area where we can really address and maybe take it farther with the tiered systems of support, maybe going into a tier 2, tier 3. So I just want you to know, yeah, I'm right there with you, but that's what I see as a need for us as a district, and just through my own experiences of what I've gone through as a parent, and the lack of services that aren't there. Maybe it's just that we haven't created them, or we need to look at it more in depth. Whatever it may be, we need to develop it further.
Can you help me? So why wouldn't one of those kids get an IEP?
Because it's more of a physical disability versus a learning disability, but it still can impact their learning, and that's kind of different. You still would go through an initial possible assessment for an IEP, possible IEP services, special ed services.
So
But if they didn't meet it, they could still meet a 504.
But the big question, because we have this money, so you're telling me for sure that none of those kids qualify for
No,
an IEP?
they don't.
They don't?
Or
I'm
the
just asking.
funding, Danny.
I'm just asking. So none of those kids could qualify for IEP?
In order for a student to qualify for an IEP, they have to have one of 13 disabilities.
Okay.
And they have to need special education services to benefit from their education.
So we're sure none of those kids don't meet those 13?
They may or may not, but it would take an assessment to find out.
No, but you're making my point. They may or may not. If they may, and if they do, my point is they should, because we have this money in this program where they can service them. If I'm missing something, you can tell me that, but
Mr. Tillman, if they do qualify, once they're assessed, then they do receive an IEP. If they don't qualify based on the assessment, then there are a couple options. One is the SST process, or if it's affecting their life functioning, then that would turn into a Section 504.
Yeah.
But that is not special education.
No. So my only point is, I hope that everyone is out there with the same mentality, that we have money available for people who qualify with an IEP. So if you have the opportunity to give the kid an IEP, you give the kid an IEP so he can get this funding. And I won't have an ending balance of $4 million. But if the people out there don't understand that mentality, it's not going to happen.
But there's also the stigma, that's what I was mentioning earlier, but they mentioned that there
But
isn't.
if the
I really
parent
do feel-
realizes that they'll get the services if their kid is identified, then the parent will be willing to do it. They will.
And I just want to, I know we need to bring this to a close, and I have about 4 questions, because I know you're getting a little restless out there. But I just want to say also, and then Dr. VOLKOMMER will make comments. I just want to say to you, thanks to all of you for the great job you're doing. It's not easy, but anytime we do not have advocates in here, we know you're doing something right. So just wanted to say how much we appreciate that. And I hear from them in the community, and I'm not hearing from them, so I just want to say thank you. But in addition, I just want to ask just 3 things in mind for the general population. Do we have enough counselors out there? You know, I know this year is different from next year, and it's going to be different from year after next, depending on what's going on in our society. But with things going on as we speak, will we start school with enough counselors at our schools?
We will start school with enough counselors.
Okay, that's a good one for me. Now, a few years ago, when Ellen Rollins was over Department of Mental Health, his comment to me, I was working at county schools, was in San Bernardino, he said, for every school that we can get a corner, I will put a counselor in there with no charge to the district. Nobody in this district would touch it. I mean, I tried, and the district didn't take advantage of that, which I'm still questioning why that did not happen. Maybe, I know, who is it, Danny? Cassandra?
Sonia Thomas.
So Cassandra Thomas, perhaps you could go to Cassandra Thomas and ask her about this to see if they're willing to do that again, because they also know if they have those spots in our schools, that we'll be able to help more people. So I would recommend that you do that. The last one I have, one area we haven't touched on of the general population is human trafficking, and that's a biggie, and we know the average age of especially women and probably men involved in human trafficking between the ages of 11 and 13. So is there some consideration that you're going to put something in place to assist with the human trafficking?
Yes, thank you. We will.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are my 3 questions, and then we'll turn over to Dr. VOLKOMMER.
And I just want you to know, Dr. Hill got you in trouble by asking if you have enough counselors. Because the word will go out, you say you have enough counselors, everybody be mad at you. You never have enough counselors.
Well, I'm sure, but I'm just hoping it would be adequate that we can deal with all the issues we have. Because one of the things Mr. Tillman said, you know, when there is killing, a murder, like with Trayvon Williams, but, you know, I know he has younger siblings. I think I heard 2 or 3 younger siblings and what have you. And I also heard from the principal that whole staff is devastated because they say he was probably one of the best kids in that school. You know, so I'm not sure we're doing all we should be doing because we're not taking a look at our staff members also. And we are still human beings.
We can always improve.
Okay, all right, thank you. Dr. VOLKOMMER?
And I just wanted to add that, I'm sorry,
No worries.
that working with the county is the whole research on collective impact, where, you know, we don't work in silos, but we share the resources, because there's the same, you know, the same citizens that we serve, and we need to pool our efforts together and not work in silos, but work collaboratively together. And that's the whole, correct, Dr. Mitchell, the collective impact.
Right.
Collective impact research. And Dr. Hill, what you said, you know, that they would put a counselor, I mean, we should pursue that. We should pursue and say we're now open to working collaboratively, and this board, you know, that would be extra people that, where we wouldn't have to find the funding, Danny. We wouldn't have to find the funding if the county also participated in helping us with our kids as well.
That would be additional
Somehow, yeah.
capacity building. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Dr. VOLKOMMER?
Well, first of all, as has been said many times already, we know that this is not easy work. And I absolutely want to commend the team for their leadership and their efforts and where we're going and the absolute intention of serving the needs of a needy community. And so thank you very much. I want to compliment Dr. Mitchell on his leadership in putting this together and everybody that was involved in it. I just want to make sure, board, I have many notes in terms of follow-up, and I'm going to make sure we capture what you are asking us to do. So these are in no particular order, by the way. I ran out of room and I had to cross-check a couple times. And so some of them are a little FYI and some of them are opportunities. But in terms of human trafficking, Dr. Hill, we do have a group from the district that is working with law enforcement and Rotary. They've been meeting for about 3 months now on the issue of human trafficking. We'd certainly be able and willing to give you an update on what that group has been up to, but they are absolutely understanding that it is a need in our community and wanting to do something about it. We will definitely follow up with Cassandra Thomas if she's got free resources for us. We'd love to talk to Cassandra and see how she might help.
Cassonia.
Oh, Cassonia, I apologize. Cassonia.
I think I said Cassandra.
Change made. Thank you, Dr. Hill. We will get you information to the board and from Dr. Flores' comment about the percentage of autistic students and the range of services we have there. We heard your questions loud and clear about services for non-special education students and all the way in respect to fighting bullying and that type of thing. We do want to remind you that part of our TSSP plan is additional attention on the MTSS, the multi-tiered supports for students. And so that is part of the TSSP plan. I know that Dr. Mitchell was working with his team all day today. I don't know if they got that far into it, but that is something you've already actually asked us to do, is take a good look at our MTSS programs and find out if they're working for kids and how we might expand and refine those. We will, I heard clearly, bring a spend down plan in terms of our carryover money. So that we know our dollars are going to the needs that our students have. We will also be careful. If you look at that budget worksheet, it is very clear that we get about $2.9 million a year. So as we're spending it down, we will make sure that we're spending it in a way that doesn't obligate us for years past that. So once it's spent down, we'll get back to budget. We will give you a breakdown, by the way, of the expenditure, what we're expending the money on. You know, right now you have expenditures. We'll give you a little bit more detailed information on what actually we're spending the money on, as well as some other things that the money can be spent on in terms of spending that carryover down.
And it might be nice to know how all those other items that don't fall under the ERMS program are being budgeted, expended.
Great, we'll include that. We'll give you data from previous years on the crisis response team. We didn't have that for you this evening, but we will get that to you. Eventually, we will form a relationship, and I'm very confident that this team will pull that off in terms of being a DBH provider. And then finally, on the issue of the number of counselors, you know, do we have enough counselors? That's like asking, you know, do you have enough money? Yes, we could always, but we can always use more, and there's always room, you know, to do additional work. I do want to commend this Board of Education, however, on your support of counseling is very unique. You will not find very many districts, if any at all, that have a counselor at every elementary school, and I'm not suggesting that's enough, but you won't find it in very many places, as well as the number of counselors we have at middle schools and high schools. We do have the lowest counselor ratio that I'm aware of at the high school level anywhere around. And so, but we do have the LCAP. I want to remind the board that we have the LCAP process coming up. This is the third year of our initial 3-year plan. We'll be working this year with the board and the community to bring you back the next 3-year plan starting in 2017-18 and the subsequent 2 years after that. And so we do have an opportunity to look at how we're spending our LCFF dollars and say, if this is what the priority is, then this is how we have to make that work. At the high school level, contractually is 375 to 1. That's generally, typically very low. You'll find districts at 500, 600 per counselor. Now, you talk to a counselor and say 375 kids is a large load. It's a lot of kids to service. But it is lower than
surrounding school districts, yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
And especially when you look at high school where they're working with academics as well.
Right. So anyway, we have heard you loud and clear. Thank you for your feedback, board. We'll bring these items back to you. Again, thank you, Dr. Mitchell, Roseanne, Michael, and team. Thank you very much for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great seeing all of you, and have a great year.
Thank you.
We're moving on to session 6.0, reports and comments. The first one by San Bernardino Teachers Association. I don't see anyone here. Okay, let's 6.2, report by California School Employees Association. Thank you, Carl. Yes, here comes Carl.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about something that's good for a change. Past couple of months, we were working very hard with the district to create a change in our own environment. And what I mean by that is kind of coming together, taking our prospective jobs and duties and titles and setting those to the side, and coming together to be able to help each other. This started with Terry Doyle when she was here. So when she moved on to other employment, we kind of worried, where was this going to go? But the district was wise enough to hire Sandra Rodriguez, Rita Jackson. We're still working together with Gladys Bird. What we're doing now is we're coming together and we're saying, okay, what is the problem? You know, take our opinions and everything out of the way, and we're saying, okay, once we identify a problem, what is the law state? What is EDCO state? What is the PC Commission state? State law, federal law. And that's our guiding point that guides us on where we should go next. Last week, we were able to all work together. We were at the annual conference for supervisors. So myself and Sandra Rodriguez and Rita Jackson, Gladys Bird, we all got together, all 4 unions. And we were able to talk to management and let them know that when union leaders are on campus, we're not always on campus to do something negative, that we have that right to be on campus because that's where our people work. But we're not coming on campus to create an issue. They were able to ask a gamut of questions and get the right answer. But I think what they really saw was that we're all working together, and we're all trying to solve each and every problem together. So that was huge to hear management come back and talk to us after we gave our presentation and say, you know, thank you for that. I didn't know that, you know. And for them to understand that we all make mistakes, but instead of pointing blame, we say this is how we fix it as a group. So I think a lot of the managers went away with a different attitude on how all of the 4 unions that we have here operate. And I think the biggest thing was they were able to ask those questions to the presidents that were there. All 4 of us were there. And the dialogue was great. I think the main thing that we have to do as people is sometimes get over ourselves and say that we're human beings first, and we're all God's children. And if you hurt, I hurt. And keep that in your mind, that our titles and what we do for a living really means nothing at the end of the day. Because when we leave the district, we're moms, we're dads, we're brothers, we're sisters, and we all come from God. So I just wanted to let you know that it's something very positive going on in this district. And it's from hiring the right people. It's from our unions learning to operate on a different level. But mainly that we understand that we are all human beings and we all deserve the same respect and admiration that we want. We got to give it back. And we have to stop, look, and listen before we regurgitate something that may be detrimental. So with that said, I think we're going on the right track. God bless you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Carl. Your comments were well said. Thank you. 6.3, report by Communications Workers of America. You're walking slow, Mr. Fletcher.
I'm walking slowly because I can't top what Carl just did. But I'm going to give you my perspective here. I've written myself a lot of notes and everything, and I hope to follow them a little bit because it's kind of hard to come up and talk about money and stuff after you're listening to all the stuff that we really need to do for our students, and that's what we're here for. But as Rochelle stated earlier, a lot of things that we do are products of our early rising. Now, when I was a little kid, I had a speech problem. I really didn't learn how to speak until I was about 4 years old. I got everything I wanted by pointing. And it's been hard to overcome that. And so when I come up here, you know, my knees shake and everything. My voice, I know, shakes. But I know you can't read my mind, so I'm going to go on. I want to thank you, management, for inviting us to the management conference. I saw Dr. Hill. I wish I could have seen a few more of you there. It was very well done. The speaker was really great. I learned a lot. But you know, one of the surprising things I learned that a few years ago, when I was in Mammoth for mountain camp, and Dr. VOLLKOMMER came up to help me, I wondered why he didn't help a whole lot. And I found out why this time, because he, along with me, we don't barbecue. Somebody else does. So we'll just have to work on that. But at least that explained why, you know, he was up there running and everything, and he did help out, but not like I thought he would, because I thought he was a kind of a take-charge person and just take over the cooking and just give me a rest, but didn't happen. Okay, at the management meeting, Dr. Wiseman's not here, so some of these questions I've got are going to be kind of a problem, because they announced that all doctors were going to get a $750 stipend. Well, I hope that includes the substitutes who are doctors, you know, and that's one thing that I'd like to see done there. All right. The other thing is, as Carl says, we are a different type of union. We do work with you people. I sent out a email today to 193 substitutes who had not signed up for next year. Why, I don't know. We've gone through, we've had meetings with Dr. Weissman and stuff, and they say we need about 900 subs. We only have 700 right now. So we may be having some problems next year on that. Gotta try to read my own writing here. Oh, one of the things, last board meeting, on July 12th, you had a thing in there for approved 5 additional days for the Principals Institute, and you're doing that at their daily rate, yet you take all teachers, and if they have to work a conference period, they only get $25 an hour. So why can't you make a thing with the principals that if you're coming in for this here type of training, we're only going to pay you so much? Because you spent $221,000 and didn't even question it. Yet we had a big argument over the $45,000 coming for the speaker. So I need to have the board to pick up what they're doing just a little bit more, please. Now, that brings me to today's personnel report. We have quite a few pages here of classified jobs. Yet, on the very last page, it talks about laying them off. No other mention. It's not clear to me at all. I don't think that page should have been input without having something there. So I hope when you guys pull something, you at least pull that last page, because I'm in firm belief that without the classified, we're nothing. Classified people help me all the time, and I would be willing, although the union wouldn't like it, I'd be willing to give up part of my raise to see the classified get a decent living raise, because they're the ones that live here in San Bernardino. They're the ones that here are spending the money. When you go to these different school sites, you see all the kids running up, grabbing hold of the rec aides, the people that work in the cafeterias and stuff. So if you can give management a 4.5% raise, you ought to be able to give a classified a 10%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. 6.4, San Bernardino School Police Officers Association, no report. 6.5, San Bernardino School Managers. 6.6, comments by board members. Any comments, anybody?
By board?
By board? Do we,
Start with Dr.
okay, so nothing on the end there?
You don't want to come
Okay, Abigail, I guess I went in shock, so
Went
I
in
got
shock,
a pain
right.
inside.
I just, one of my questions is really just on regards there's a form that there's a low-income form, and I just want to need some clarification on this for the free and reduced lunch. And yet, is there a because I received a document that in order for the state or for us to receive extra money for the SES, that they have to fill out this form. I'm sorry? And my concern is that when I receive the paperwork for the kids, I haven't, what does that form look like? And I'm wondering for parents, are they informed about this, especially if it's a requirement and we haven't, informed them that this is if you qualify, we need to make sure that you fill out the document?
So, thank you. I just want to make sure the question is, what's the specific question?
Well, it's regarding isn't there, I seen this on a Facebook post as well, and I couldn't find it right now, that the state will give you the money, and correct me if I'm wrong, the state will give you some money depending on the amount of low income, not the low income, free and reduced lunch. Mm-hmm. And
For what?
for the SES.
So, for SES?
Not that SES.
Oh, not that.
Not the SES, is it for?
Socioeconomic status.
Yes, yes, that's that, the socioeconomic status. But no, but I'm talking about this, don't we receive extra funding for that? Don't we receive money that if they don't fill out a certain form, we don't get that money? Or am I
Oh,
wrong?
for free and reduced lunch.
Yeah, but not just for free and reduced lunch, but they also, the state is
For their
looking at that as a model, for funding model
yeah.
for per student. I'm sorry, I probably didn't explain it correctly.
So the LCFF is based on the free and reduced
That's
lunch
what I'm trying to say.
applications that are within the school district. Now, on some of the sites this year, because they meet the minimum requirement of, I think it's 60%, that school site, the whole school site will be receiving, be in a free status. That's for lunches. However, the parents still have to fill out a short form that says what the income level is for their home, and they are being notified a number of times that if they don't fill this form out, that the school district will not qualify for that one household for LCFF. So there's two things going on. There's an improvement where 50 of our school sites will qualify for meals across the whole school, but they still need to fill out basically a short form so that the state still has some record that the district has needs.
And that's the short form that I'm kind of asking about, because I know that there was a forms for the free and reduced lunch forms, but that form, I'm wondering, how are they disseminating, or how are they letting the parents know about that? Is it
Yeah,
the mail, or is it what?
Yeah, there's a joint effort going on between the school site and from nutrition services to communicate with the school site. And they are being reminded of the importance of that because it is tied to LCFF funding.
Okay. And for instance, if the parents hear it either through the TV, where do they get the form if they haven't received it yet? Do they go to the school? Where can they receive that form? Or
So-
do they just wait until they receive it?
No, there's a number of first, there's a proactive approach from nutrition services and communications with the school site, and there are mailers going home from nutrition services, and it's on our webpage. So we are making the effort to engage with the parents.
Okay, yeah, okay, because I know that, I think it was last year that they mentioned that there can be a concern for the amount of parents, if they're not turning those forms in, that we could receive less money.
That is correct, but we're aware of it as a district, and we are outreaching
Perfect.
to the parents. If for some reason a site administrator knows that a family qualifies, but they fail to turn that form in, the site administrator, as long as they have knowledge of the economic condition of that household, can do an administrative completion of the form. So there are some checks and balances that are going on.
Is there a deadline on that one?
It's,
To receive money? Now, I'm not, one is for the free and reduced lunch, but
do you want
for
to?
the form that they have to submit for the LCFF.
So there is a timeline in order to qualify the student. If they were filling out the application for free and reduced, we would always provide the lunch no matter what time of year.
Okay.
But there's a timeline so many days after school starts, and it's the certification of the CalPads.
Okay.
So it's a very lengthy process, and we do a really good job of identifying everyone. And although our percentage has gone down slightly, it's still over 90%, so I think we're still capturing everything. So we have folks that are looking at that, and if there's a chunk of people, I know that food service and school sites will run reports if
Okay.
a number of them haven't filled out. But there is so many days after the first day of school that we need to get all of that information in.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Rogers?
Okay, thank you. On the, I mentioned at our last meeting last week about the wellness conference that we attended, and I know we're working on a subcommittee, but I also wanted to make mention, and this question is probably for you, Mr. Porker. Nutrition, there was a nutrition session that I attended, and one of the employees was there because we have been talking back and forth about the lunch. But are you aware of the it's called the Smarter Lunch program movement. And what was unique about it, and I know the employee that was attended, we had a great dialogue about it, and in our efforts to get students, you know, to eat better and not always grab for the sweets, that part of that program is how they positioned things in the cafeteria, and they took us through this whole model of putting fruit up front, and then the students were interviewed, but it was a very, very good program, and I didn't know if your department was aware of that.
I would say yes. The federal government is constantly changing the regulations as they apply to fruits, vegetables, whole grains, reduction of salt, not using flour, bleached flour. And so this has caused a challenge because it doesn't necessarily match the food profile for students at home. Okay. So the Nutrition Services Department is constantly engaging focus groups at the school sites and testing products to actually get the best formulation for those kids to encourage them to eat. There really is not sweets in the program anymore. Okay. I don't want to say they've outlawed them, but they've made the restrictions high enough that we really are going against some of the foods that students eat at home because they're not familiar with them. And so, yes, the department is engaging the marketing strategies, awareness, food groups, or focus groups, so that they actually can test these products as they come out.
And it was called the Smarter Lunchrooms Movement.
That's why we got
applying research-based principles to reinforce healthy eating.
That's why we got a junk food black market now at our schools.
At school, underground, it's like an underground selling, so that's good, but she probably will bring it up to you because she sat in there, and it was very, very engaging and simple, just simple adjustments. And then also, Dr. VOLLKOMMER, I know you weren't here the other week, but you probably got the information. I just want to reinforce the golf program. Did they get the information to you? Because we wanted to make sure that.
61?
Yes.
I do have information.
Okay, and so are we?
There's specific information.
Well, the question was, were we going to move forward and continue that program?
Yeah, that's a CAPS program.
Okay.
So yes, that's a CAPS program, and yes, we are contracting with them again this year.
Okay,
so Dennis Warman is working on that contract now.
Okay, good. He did mention that. Good. And then I had an opportunity to attend, and I don't know if all the high schools are doing it, but still a parent at Cajon. Cajon had their parent orientation along with the students, and it was very, very good. They took us through a number of classrooms and engaging us on information as to what is needed for our students, and they really made a concerted effort together on campus. So I kind of wanted to give them a plug on what they are doing, especially over there at Cajon when it comes to parent registration and engaging the students and making sure that the parent and the students are kind of on the same page. And then my last question, I believe, is surrounding the test scores. I remember we mentioned that test scores were coming somewhere in July. Is that still true? Or
We've received preliminary test information, which we've been ordered not to distribute or share.
Okay.
We will get final test scores on or near September 1, as we're being told now. Is that correct, Dr. Mitchell?
That's absolutely correct. We do have preliminary data right now.
Preliminary, but September 1. And then just on a final note, back to Cajon, and being that I was there, for the orientation and my student was registering and books and all the things, and I was hoping tonight, I don't see him unless you got him, Dr. Hill, we were going to see the ethnic studies books. And I was there, but I didn't ask the question because I figured we would all see them all together. But I do want to make a note that I did speak to my son about it. He wasn't aware of it. And he doesn't know everything. I'm not saying he knows everything, but he wasn't aware of it. And then I went back and I had a chance to look at the correspondence. And as a parent that's been there all this time, and they said there was a parent meeting that I just don't understand how that got past me. because I didn't see it, I didn't hear about it, didn't know it was happening, didn't know what the opportunity was. I have a senior, and so he's interested in some transitional things and making some decisions as to what he may or may not major in. So again, I don't know how that got passed. I don't know how it got passed, if it got past all of us, I don't know. But as a parent, to not know that was going on in a school that my kids are in, as well as a board member, to be able to speak to it when the community was asking me about it, and now I still don't see the material, so I'm just still concerned.
And I do not have a book.
You don't have it, okay.
All right, Dr. Flores.
Thank you. I have 4 comments, actually 3 questions and then a comment. I would like to have a list of all the cases that are being litigated against the district and the cost to date. I want a summary statement of all of that, because I like to see what the issues are and so forth, and where we're at, and how much we have spent with attorneys. I also would like an update, and because you had stated that you were going to provide an updated budget allocation for the restorative justice and the youth court, I would like to make sure that we fund them adequately, because it's, I don't think it's any longer a pilot. It's, I think, part of our infrastructure, and I don't want it to fail. I'm sure my colleagues on the board don't want it to fail, and it should be adequately funded. So I'd like to know what that is. Also, this is a very touchy subject, and it has to deal with disability claims and workman compensation. I would like a status on the number of cases pending and the number of money that we have allocated to date. I don't know if we can have that anytime soon. I know we hired somebody to do risk management, and I don't know where their status is regarding that. But I think we need to know as a board how much money is being spent on those issues. I don't know if the new board members know about that, about workman's compensation and disability claims and et cetera. And I don't think I've seen a report of that for quite a long time. Danny, did we used to get reports on workers' compensation and disability claims? We used to, and I haven't seen one for a couple of years. So I think we need to be up.
I thought we said last time quarterly we would have reports in closed session on.
Yeah, in closed session, yeah,
Right.
right. So anyway, I'm just reminding our staff that we haven't had it in a while. And then the fourth one is related to Ms. Rogers' questions about ethnic studies. I know that Ms. Medina and she and I are on the subcommittee, but I really truly also am concerned about the curriculum. I like to see the curriculum. It's really important. I am really well-versed as academic in terms of ethnic studies as well, and would like to see the curriculum. I mean, I have this book because I went to the conference in Washington, D.C. One of the pastors talked about the black Jacobkins. They were the ones that, with Toussaint Louverture, who led the revolution in Santo Domingo in Haiti. That was the first revolution against the French, the English, the Americans, and that was the only slave uprising that gained freedom. So I want to make sure that that's in there. I want to make sure that we have the Olmeca civilization in there and all their contributions. I don't know if you all know, but the Moors were in southern Spain for 900 years. They were the mathematicians, the architects, that greatly influenced Spain. And a lot of the explorers were from southern Spain. The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn is also a really important piece. Dr. Ronald Takaki was a UCLA professor wrote many books, but Mirror of History is really important, talks about all the ethnic groups that contributed to this country's success, economic success, and social success. Dr. Keringa, Afro-American Studies professor at Cal State University, Long Beach, has tremendous insight in terms of the African-American history and contributions, very detailed. So, I mean, those are things that, you know, our kids should be aware of, and knowing all that. So I don't know if that's included in the curriculum or not, Dr. Mitchell, because that's going to be under you.
Yes, and so I've asked staff to get prepared to do this subcommittee and to get me all of the past requests that you had. So your past request was the course description, course outline, how many students are enrolled in the courses, how many sections are we offering. You wanted a copy of the book, and you also wanted to reconvene. You also wanted a list of the parents that attended the meetings, and so all of that I should have early next week.
And I'm also concerned, like Mrs. Rogers, that, you know, the kids aren't aware of it. Not all kids are aware of it, or parents. And I know it's a pilot. I know it was a pilot. So, you know, we need to find out all of that as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. I have all that in a board book, a BC for you, as well as I've ordered the copies of the book as well.
And I wanted to thank Ron for also bringing that up about the personnel report. I don't think I turned the page, and I didn't see that part. But I read everything, and I don't think I turned that page. So thank you.
All right, Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. For me, kind of an emotional meeting, and I can honestly say that, again, I just feel compelled to say that we have to do more in regards to our MTSS program. And I'd like to amend one of my agendized items, which is number 8 on the top 10, that says mental health report. I want to separate the two. One is ERMS, which is the mental health report. And then I want to add to the items of the MTSS report.
You might want to bring that up when we get there.
Okay. I'm learning when the right time is, so I will bring it up again then, which I would also like a detailed timeline for the 5-year plan that we have in regards to the MTSS and the 3.2 million and 8 identified schools. Question for the chief. I'm glad you're here tonight, Chief. Do we have any kind of program out there that deals with safe streets to school or something along those lines in place?
Yeah, the last program that I remember and that we had was a partnership we had with Young Visionaries, where Mr. Terrence Stone, in partnership with the district, put some volunteers outside of San Bernardino High School, safe passage. So we can now re-look at that program, as well as a program we had in Highland outside of Cypress. Next door at the library, we had volunteers, volunteering to do safe passage for our kids.
I love it, and reason why I bring it up is, and I brought up our last board meeting, is, again, right here behind Jones.
Yeah.
I drive that route 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, and I see our young men, our young ladies, and our parents walking that path, and what they have to see walking to and from school is unacceptable to me. So somehow, some way, I want to partner up and make that happen, try to create safe pathways and safe routes to school for our kids, because I know if my son or daughter was walking those sidewalks coming to school, I would not be happy about it. And then the last thing for Dr. Mitchell, our SEL curriculum, I just want to make sure, and this was brought up by Madam President Dr. Hill, that we include awareness about child trafficking and human trafficking. I know with the County Office of Ed, we have a piece that we go over with all of our students just to create greater awareness out there, so when they're being groomed or poached or addressed, that they know what's happening to them. So that is it for me.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to commend Linda Baudet and her staff for the management conference. It was probably one of the best even though I was there 2 days, just partial days. But one of the comments I heard from those who are not certificated employees, they were so glad to have workshops there that they could participate in, and they enjoyed. And of course, we're always happy to have our substitutes there. And just want to commend you, a tremendous, tremendous job. I left my ticket with somebody. I guess I didn't win anything, so that's okay. All right. Okay, let's move right along. 6.7, Board Committee Reports, Senate reports from anybody? I was asked by Council Member Richard that we need to get started, Ms. Badair, Ms. Medina, Ms. Rogers. I think we the ones. Yeah. She's the 6th Ward Council member who will be working with us on the San Bernardino putting on the Ritz. And I said, we may have to prolong. She said, oh, no, we can do it this year. So, so any input from any of you, we'd appreciate. Yes.
I do, this one isn't quite a committee report, but it falls under a committee. I met with Sonny McPeak today. We were at a launch initiative meeting. And just so you know, she's committed another $100,000 to the district to support the deployment of the additional 5,000 Chromebooks for the parent and student education things, along with $14,000 for, other ancillary things. $100,000. Along with another $14,000. She'll be, I've suggested that she present it perhaps at an upcoming school board meeting. So it kind of falls under the technology committee deployment thing. Just thought the board might want to know that. Sonny McPeak, she is the former secretary of the state of California's Business, Housing, and Transportation division that's now been kind of divvied up, but she heads up what's called the California Emerging Technology Fund that's responsible for dissemination throughout the state of California of high-speed internet access to everyone. And, she really has surrounded this district because of our investments, thanks to Mr. Tillman's suggestion and this board's commitment to see our students actually have computing power at home. So
that's great. And I don't feel comfortable with sharing too much information. I have a meeting tomorrow, but I understand Frontier Communications, I think they're the ones that took over, that everybody's pretty much upset at. But I understand they also is going to donate, this organization, nonprofit, wrote a grant, and it's another 5,000 Chromebooks. Yes, as well as Frontier is going to put in the Wi-Fi or whatever, the hotspots or whatever. I'll bring you more information. That's all I know right now, but I'll bring that back to you.
Dr. Hill, for how much? Are they gonna
No cost to us. It would be 5,000. They are going to
5,000.
put 5,000 Chromebooks in the hands of students in this district, as well as the Wi-Fi.
Attached to the Chromebooks. Okay. Okay, that's good.
They just wrote a grant, and they got it from Frontier. Yeah, so I just don't have enough information to say too much more, and I am meeting tomorrow, so I don't want to say anything that's not true. All right, 6.8, comments by superintendent and staff members.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. If you hadn't noticed yet, Dr. Marsden is not with us this evening. Anybody notice that? He's at the West Ed Board of Directors. As you know, he's appointed by Michael Kirsch from the State Board of Education to be on the West Ed Board of Directors, and he'll be in Monterey, unfortunately for him, I suppose, from July 19th through July 22nd. So That is why he's not with us this evening. Just a couple quick announcements. I also want to give a shout out to Linda Bardier and her team and the summer conference committee. We had an excellent management conference. We had our keynote speaker and a number of workshops. We really got our money's worth out of Mike Merchant from the Arbinger Institute, who specializes in relationship development and basically treating people as people and not as objects or obstacles, and I think it was very, very well done. We had a number of other sessions throughout the conference, and it was a really, really good 2 days, great kickoff for our management team and our other leaders from our unions. Next Wednesday, we have our employee gathering for excellence from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the National Orange Show, and Mike Merchant actually will be back from the Arbinger Institute. We'll be back to keynote that event for us. We're hoping that you'll be able to join us. There's an open invitation to all of our employees, and I think we're expecting, Linda, about 1,000-ish?
We've had over 600 RSVP at this point, and it's a free event. We just need that to know our numbers.
Yeah, so. A couple other things in terms of times. We have, as you know, with Maddie leaving and Dr. Mitchell going over to Educational Services, we are on the hunt for an Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, and those interviews will be next Wednesday. Actually, the interviews will be Tuesday, and then there's going to be a invite only for a community social with the finalists for that position on Wednesday, July 27th, 3:30 to 7. Dr. Hill and Dr. Medina and Dr. Wyatt, I believe, are going to represent the board at that particular event. So we're looking forward to getting that position. Probably no one more than Dr. Mitchell. I remember having the 2-division assignment for a little while, and I'm sure he's anxious for that person to come on board. Cabinet will be in Lake Arrowhead on the 28th and 29th of next week for our quarterly strategic planning. That's where we go away and go to kind of dig deep on a few issues. So we'll be away on July 28th and 29th, available but not directly in the district. And I also wanted to invite you, if you haven't already RSVP'd, we have summer graduation this Thursday, this Thursday, the 21st at 5:15. That's the show-up time at San G, room D6. Please make sure that you've coordinated everything with Karen if you're going to be able to join us. That is a great event. These are kids that came up just a little bit shy of our June graduations, and rather than, take off for the summer and go to the beach and hang out at the mall, they got their final units done, and we're going to be able to see those kids walk across the stage and get their diploma. So that's really exciting stuff. How many are we anticipating? I think we're at
a little over 300.
A little over 300, which I know is the most we've ever had.
Yes, that's the most. We usually average around 220.
Yeah. So it's really.
And it's across all of the comprehensive high schools and our continuation high schools. So it's a combination of all the schools.
And if you've never been, by the way, they all wear their own color caps and gowns. So you see this absolute, rainbow of colors out in the audience. It's really kind of a special event, and the kids have really worked hard. So please come and join us if you can to celebrate with them. And then finally, I want to congratulate the district. We received notification that we were, this is the, I think, second or third time we've been designated as a gold level fit-friendly work site for the efforts of our wellness committee in terms of promoting positive fitness and health, a culture of health to our employees. And so we received the gold. This is from the American Heart Association.
The board members are dragging down that average?
Well, yeah. I think they would have had a platinum level had we, no, I'm just kidding. So we're very proud of that. We know that health is an important issue, and that being part of our culture, we learned or were reminded at our management conference that culture eats strategy for lunch. So you can have all the strategy in the world, but if you don't have a good organizational culture, and so this is part of ours. So congratulations to the district, and Janet King in Janie's office, Janie's division, coordinates those efforts with the team. So we want to give kudos to her. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam President, quick comment, question I should say. Dr. VOLLKOMMER, the 300 students that are graduating soon.
Dr. VOLLKOMMER?
No, wait.
I'm sorry.
The 300 students that are graduating this week, does that have any impact on our graduation rate?
Oh, absolutely.
So we will be increasing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Outstanding.
Okay. All right, session 7.0, the consent calendar. I need a motion.
And I won't have one to pull.
A motion?
Okay, a motion.
Second?
Second. And I know Dr. VOLLKOMMER wants to pull
Dr. Hill, we would like to pull item 7.26.
7.26. Anyone else?
I have a, well, I have a
Anyone-
question on that same one too, 7.26, 7.27,
26.
26 and 27?
You have a question? You want to pull 7.27?
27 and 26, I'll just comment on.
7.24
24
Okay.
also.
and 7.28.
You got 242, right?
26, 27, and 28.
Anyone else? Okay. I entertain a motion to approve the balance. Oh, we've already voted, so let's vote.
No, we haven't
No,
voted.
we haven't. We're just voting
Let's
right now.
vote. Okay, motion carried. Thank you, folks. All right, 7.24, Scott?
Yes, Madam President, I was just talking with Dr. Mitchell about this. I was just a little bit surprised at the number for an additional 3,500 homeless students and families, and I was asking him what the previous number was and total number is, because that's a lot of families, so I was just wondering, I wanted to get a little feedback on that. And it was,
Yeah, so we've doubled the number of homeless students that we've identified. That's directly attributed to the board's commitment in the LCAP dollars, where we were able to purchase a foster youth and homeless supervisor in the form of Angela Arquides. She's the principal on special assignment. So she actually went out to every school, her and her team, and actually went through all the cums of kids to identify more homeless students, as well as updated our enrollment information and verification. She's also created a much more inclusive and non-evasive way of finding out who's homeless, because that's not always something that people want to share. You remember the definition of homeless is not having your own household. So even if you have 2 and 3 families in the same house, those families are also considered homeless as well. And what we were finding is that kids would not self-identify through either stigma or fear of social services. I mean, there's still a lot of fear amongst our parents around some of the institutional practices that actually hinder families as opposed to help them. And so Angela and her team actually went to every school in the district and also taught our registration folks how to ask for that information in a non-evasive way or a tone that's unsettling to parents that would cause them to not share it. And those efforts have doubled the number of homeless students that we've identified.
so our approximate number is about 5,200?
Yeah, we're up to about 5,200 now.
So that's about 10% of our.
Absolutely. And that's just one year, so.
Well, thank you, first of all, to you and your team and them for doing a great job of identifying those kids, but I just wanted to bring some light to that and how many families we have out there that are considered homeless in our district, 10%. So,
thank you.
And I just have a comment.
Okay, Ms. Rogers?
And so my question was on there, because I know this is some very crucial, important work, and I know there's partnerships with the county surrounding doing this, and then when it comes, they just done the point-in-time count, and in our homeless situation is growing, but they're trying to manage it, because when you get to kids, it's very difficult, and I know they're putting together some things where students are even involved in the act, trying to build that information and find out what's going on, because there's different definitions. But my question was, and I see what we're doing here, I think there's another person in this department, but my question on this was, why can't, or at what point in time could we make this position permanent where we wouldn't have to do something like this? Is that possible?
It is. We do have 2 permanent positions, and so this contract is actually for Ms. Lee to work as a liaison with state and county offices, while our other 2 staff members do more of the field work. So Ms. Lee has amazing connections with county and state offices, and so we do have 2 full-time homeless liaisons, and we're using Ms. Lee in a consultant fashion to overlay some of the political work and connections that our field staff wouldn't have time to do.
So is there a way that we can ever make this permanent? Because, and the reason why I ask, she's been doing this position quite some time, right?
Yes, and
Like-
Ms. Rogers, I'd love to talk to you about that in closed
Okay.
session.
So that would be my question on that follow-up, Debbie. That was it.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo? Mr. Tillman?
No, it's because it's on the subject, but I just want to commend the work that Vicky Lee does. I mean, I just hear all over town about the work that she does for the homeless students and homeless families, and she is a huge value to the district, so I just want to commend her for the work that she does.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Yeah, and the work is tremendous, but I think it's worth noting, Gwen alluded to it, but the definition of homeless, it's not like these families are out on the street and things. There's 4 multi-level definitions of it, to out on the street, to precariously housed, to even doubled up with family members, to even students who have not been in sustained housing or moved more than twice in a given school year. So there's a number of definitions that qualify for this many houses now, or this homeless, so it's a little bit of a misnomer. However, it doesn't remove the fact of the need of Vicky's and counseling services and the tremendous additional support that these individuals and students need, because you've seen all of the studies that showcase the tremendous stress. You talk about mental health issues and other kinds of stress issues, let alone the impact to student achievement of being in these circumstances, and so it really is a critical.
Great point, Mr.
critical
Gallo.
focus.
Maybe we could get that information delineated into those subgroups.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what all of you said. It's also probably one of the few positions with this district that's 24/7. A perfect example with Trayvon Williams. She chased down the family at a car wash because she couldn't find them, and has been working with the parents, been working with Lincoln Elementary School. When Kevin Goodley said, I need to find out information about the funeral, the next day when I got to the management conference, she had already called him to let your staff know the funeral is this day and these are the needs. So,
So moved.
great, sir. Thank you.
Second.
All right, let's vote. Okay, thank you. 7.26, Dr. VOLLKOMMER and Ms. Rogers.
Janie, did you want to share the background on 726, please?
So the item was put on the board, and we found out that due to the timing, AMR is not available for Pacific, so we're working on another provider. So that's why we have to pull it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, that's
right.
fine.
Okay,
good.
thank you. Ms. Rogers?
I mean, that probably eliminates it, so I'm
Okay.
good. Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Okay, it's a motion?
No, we don't need
No, we don't need
Oh, that's right, we're just pulling that. I'm sorry, we're pulling 7.26. 7.27, Ms. Rogers?
My question, it says, community-based homework centers. So what are there different locations throughout the city where they are, or do we have a list or know who they are? Is that you?
Yes.
You're it tonight.
No, Ms. Rogers, prior to the founding of CAPS,
Right.
the district has had 5 homework center locations located primarily in our churches in 5 different locations. This past year, we've had one of our longstanding homework centers decline to renew their contract. The Boys and Girls Club has long since been providing the same kind of tutoring.
Right.
And so this is a contract. We put out $125,000 a year on homework centers across the city.
So is this the one that declined to do the services?
Well, we replaced the one that declined to do the services with the
Okay.
Boys and Girls Club.
And do you know off the top of your head, what are the 4 centers?
Like there's one at the Lutheran Church, and I don't want to name off the top of my head. One is the Lutheran Church, one is the Asian American Church. And I'll have to get you the list.
Okay, all right, fine. I just weren't aware there were extras, so that's good.
Okay,
That's it.
need a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
All right, let's vote. All right, thank you. 7.28, Dr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Madam President. Just, first of all, I see it's a rather large increase in regards to the funding for the YAP program. My concern is do we have an instrument or a method of evaluation for results? I was at their graduation ceremony, and actually, there was tremendous turnout and appeared to be a very successful program, but I'm just wondering, is there some way that we evaluate the success of such programs, and particularly this one right now? I mean, it would pertain to any of our programs, but I just wonder if we have an instrument or method of evaluation for such programs and their success and impact on our students.
So the contract for all of our consultants that do this kind of work, we require that they build in some metrics that they'll evaluate and provide us information on. So for all of these contracts, we get a year-end report. Right now, what we are currently developing, along with business services offices, is to revamp how we evaluate all of our programs and services. So some of our programs and services, we want a better ability to be able to capture some qualitative data as well as quantitative metrics. And so we're strengthening that tool. As you know, YAP has been a partner with the district for the last decade. So this is the typical contract that he brings through.
Are we looking at, are we looking at outcomes?
Yes, and so each provider submits a year-end report where at the beginning of, when we're brokering the contract with them and developing the contract, we require the metrics that they're moving or how we'll evaluate their program. And so then at the end of their program, they provide the end-of-year report, and
Could
we
we see
evaluate.
that once you guys?
Yeah, absolutely, I can definitely provide last year's report.
And actually, you may remember that Mr. Williams came and presented to the board a number of months ago on the outcomes from his program, but we're happy to give you that information again.
And was this increase due to more, he's going to provide more service to more students? Is that what happened?
Yes, we added an additional high school.
Sanji?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I thought it was.
Or it might be San Bernardino.
Was it, because it
Yeah,
was
San
Arroyo before, right?
Yeah, it was the adult school, it was
both.
Sanji.
It was both schools.
Yeah, so we added one of the high schools.
Okay, yeah, so he's going to.
Have they turned in their report yet, Dr. Mitchell?
Yes, for 15-16 they did.
They did?
Yes, I have that report.
Okay, and it's a good report?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you. We will now move into session 8, action items. Personnel report, 8.1.
I'm not sure I remember how to do this after 20 years I actually do want to make a comment, though, in relation to Mr. Fletcher's comments, and that is, at the end of the personnel report, on page 59, it talks about layoffs. That's the very last page of the report, and that would seem to go with pages 53 through 58, where we show a number of positions that are being abolished. I want to assure the board, no one is being laid off. This board has given us very clear direction in the last several years about no layoffs. No one is being laid off, and no one is losing a job. About 2/3 of these positions are vacant positions. 2/3 of the people in the positions will move into other similar positions that were vacant. Their position obviously wasn't immediately vacant. This has already been negotiated with our CSEA, and so they have looked at the effects of this decision, and it has already gone through their 610 process, et cetera. So I talked with Dr. Wiseman about this morning. We're good to go on this, but it does not entail any layoffs.
Great.
So moved.
Second.
Let's vote.
I wanted to ask a question, I'm sorry. You didn't see my light.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
These positions that we're abolishing, are they, the people going into the different other positions, are they going into 8 months or 10 months, or Are there reductions in their hours, or are they equivalent? Do they have parity?
Everybody, no one has lost any, there are no
Time.
reductions at all.
There's no reductions,
Mhm. I asked-
just the title?
Correct. I asked
Only the
Dr.
title is changed?
Correct.
Okay.
And sometimes the title didn't even change, but no one's losing any hours or months.
Or months, okay.
Correct.
All right. Otherwise, I would vote no.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you. 8.2, amendment to Board by Law 9250.
This is not the first reading, this is something,
Oh, yeah, this is the first
we
reading.
usually don't vote on the first.
We don't vote on
We
it
don't
yet.
vote on.
Do we?
Well, you do.
So
vote.
moved.
Yeah,
Second,
let's vote. Okay. Thank you, and as you know, there will be changes made with 8.2. 8.3, Board Top 10.
I'll move to approve, and I think Scott.
And I'll
had something
second.
to
To
add,
approve.
Or maybe to the next one you did, your action
Well,
list.
actually, on the
Let's
top
have-
Next
10,
one, yeah.
Yeah,
I did
okay.
have an
Let's have a
amendment to that. I
second
don't know
before
if
you
we
can-
do that now.
I second it.
Okay, it's been second, okay.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, we do.
Okay,
What's your amendment?
No, just the mental health report, just to make it specific to ERMS. It kind of had a dual purpose there, which now I've learned that it's two different entities.
that's number 8.
Yes, it is. It's
And
really
what-
just a ERMHS report was what it would be. That's right. It's an ERMS report. Just amend it.
Okay. All right, Ms. Rogers?
I'm sorry. On number 6, there's a couple of, I think I mentioned it at another board meeting, that I know Mr. Nichols was one, well, he's asked on 2 occasions, and then the other one was Virginia Marquez. On one was the project over at Sierra, wanting to be involved in that or know what we were doing for Sierra. And then the other one was, Mr. Nichols brought up that he had another career pathway that was STEM relate, or not STEM, solar related. So when we're saying invite them or interact, I don't know how we can move this to where we're actually doing that. And then the suggestion is we had so many new schools, but some of them are in those wards where we can ask and kind of get this off because it's been there for a while.
I agree.
So this is, as you can see, has been assigned to Dr. Marsden and Mr. Poikert. What we envision at this point is to invite the city council members to our board meeting to have a discussion, kind of a free-flowing discussion about those types of issues. Where can we partner? What are your areas of interest? What have we got going on that you need more information about? And then coupling that with a tour prior to the board meeting so that we would start at maybe 3 o'clock or 3:30 and tour some of our newer facilities and that type of thing. So we haven't come date specific with that yet, but we'll bring a
Right.
recommendation
It's been a
back to the
while.
board.
Especially since, there was a board meeting yesterday, and then there's some issues, that they want to know our voice when we start talking about medical marijuana and all those type of things, then we're coming over. So we need to have that dialogue with them ongoing outside of, before we even get to that point. Then we have to question and ask, what were we going to say? Good thing we said the right things, and then my other one was, I know Abigail and I have talked about the academic advisors. I know the last time it was reported, it said that it was costly, but I don't know what we're going to do from there. Is it in a budget? Do we have the funding? Will it be something that will ever happen? Or should we just kind of?
So, the board correspondence, the way I structured was just to tell you how much it costs, and if the board wants to allocate dollars toward that's a direction that the board can give.
I would like to allocate some.
My job or my task was to say, this is how much it costs.
Okay.
Did you do that?
I did.
He did.
I did.
You did?
Can you present that to us again, and that way we could, next time we talk about the budget, that we can.
Well,
look at-
I would like to agendize
Yeah.
it so we can talk about it. Because that was my question. I also wanted to, Madam President, I wanted to agendize that particular item.
And we will.
Okay, thank you.
You will.
He's writing away. This is record writing.
Okay, Dr. Flores, anything else?
Oh, that was it.
That was it? Okay, Dr.
I know sloppy writing.
Okay. All right. Let's vote. think that's 8.4 we're voting on now, or 8.3?
8.3.
Okay, 8.3. Now, 8.4, future agenda items.
Motion.
So moved.
Okay. discussion.
Second.
Let's vote.
Oh, sorry.
8.5, follow up on board requests. 8.5, follow up on board requests.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Okay, don't
But did you
all
have a
go to
question?
sleep
no, I did
yet.
have discussion piece.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
No, this is where I was hoping to add the MTSS
We can add it.
agenda. Is that in regards to under student services
That's a good one.
as a separate report?
Okay.
And also as another item to include the child trafficking within the SEL curriculum. Make sure we do that.
All right, so add in those two items.
And then under school police, to work with the school police to create a safe schools initiative, somehow partnering with a volunteer organization if necessary.
Karen, do you have those? Thank you.
And that's
All
it.
right. Thank you. Let's vote. Thank you. We will be going into closed session, and I'm sorry. Before we go into closed session, Dr. VOLKOMMER.
Before you go into closed session tonight, Board, we have a lovely parting gift for you. Linda, are you ready? I'm sorry, I missed my cue earlier, and so I threw her timing off completely. I apologize. But we do have a little.
We do
little,
have it set
a
up,
little
and
goodie for
Dr.
you.
Hill, you are a winner. In fact, all of our school board members are winners. We have for you some lovely cell phone wallets that a couple board members requested a while back, and I placed some back on this table over here. We are going to be giving those out to all of our employees and anyone else who joins us on July 27th at the employee gathering. So stick them on your cell phone, and they are removable because I put mine on and I took it off, and I was pretty impressed with it. So I hope you enjoy that.
Thank you, Linda. Do they come in black by chance?
Thank you.
We ordered them in blue.
I won't tell you what I was thinking, like, how am I going to get my cell phone in here?
Love.
I know for the bit. All right, thank you, thank you. We are reporting out. Okay, closed session. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher, and staff, those of you who get to go home. Meeting back in session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the appointment of the following employees. Jenny Page, Middle School Vice Principal. Effective date, work year, and salary to be determined. Funding 035.
So moved.
Second.
Let's vote.
I was quiet.
Thank you, team.
Move to adjourn.
All right. We won't vote, but we're leaving. Good night. Thank you.